Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 13th day of September 2024. Welcome to our show today. Today we have Off the Grid starting out at 9 o'clock with Dr. David Kent, Karen the Riveter, and Ralph the IT guy. Another riveting conversation amongst friends who are out there researching and looking at all things in every direction. It's amazing. And then at 10 o'clock, we have our citizen journalist panel on this morning. And I believe Ammon Bundy is going to be on this morning. We were talking about scheduling him. Casey's working on that with me. So I'm assuming he's on. And so we've got him plus Vicky Davis, who is a beast researcher, Melissa Frysel, and the rest of the crew, Dan and Hollis, Smeriglio, and etc., and Casey Whalen. And then at 11 o'clock, it is J6ers, Political Prisoners in America, with Jalise Middleton. And today she has Troy Smocks on, which I love Troy. I've interviewed him. I interviewed him last December. And I got to tell you, this guy is amazing. He is totally amazing, and filed a lawsuit against the federal government for kidnapping him for about $256 million. And so we're going to get an update on that. So, and with that said, here we go back to bringing everybody on. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello, doing good. Morning. Happy Friday.
How's your first week of wedded bliss?
It's still blissful. Thank you.
Good answer.
David, I love you a lot. I think you're a wonderful person, but just for the record here, you married off with Jeannie. She is such a lovely, wonderful person. And,
yes.
I mean,
that's so lucky.
I'm just busting you in the chops here. You two both are just wonderful people. And I just wish you a lifetime of love and happiness with your families and with your family. And it was a very nice wedding. And we've talked about it a lot. And I had a lot of fun there.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's fun to hang out with friends and just be normal. The world's gotten so crazy that just to have a day where you can just be normal. And
no politics, no stress, nothing.
Yeah, it was fun. And the food, oh my gosh. I could not, I'm telling you, I'd be like 1,000 pounds if I ate like that. The food was so good. It was amazing.
I hope you got a cupcake.
I did. You heard about my cupcake story, didn't you?
Yes, I think you told me. Yeah, those cupcakes were a hit. I couldn't eat one, but I just stick to my carnivore diet.
Yeah,
but I did have a piece of cake for good luck.
Yeah, you have to do that at your own wedding. I mean, that'd be really lousy if you didn't eat cake at your own wedding. I think you can break the diet once in a while.
I was warned.
Yeah, you lose husband points right at the wedding if you don't eat the wedding cake. Just gotta say.
Just need to have a meatloaf cake. As I recall, Donna, you had a story about that kind of thing.
I did. So I've got a very warped sense of humor. Okay. And when it comes to, I find like almost everything funny. I just do. I don't know why it is. It just works out for me that way. Cause there's so many things when they go wrong, it's more absurd than it is tragic. Right. So I decided when my kids were little that I've done some cake decorating and such, I've tried every grandma hobby on the planet just because I like doing that sort of thing. Knitting, crocheting, cake decorating. I gave some of my friends wedding cakes as a gift, because I decorate them all up and I have a good time with that, right? Just fun. So when my kids were little, I decided on April Fool's Day to get them, okay? And it was a beautiful setup. It really was. So I told them, today it's April Fool's Day. We're going to make it special. We're going to have a backwards dinner. So what I did is I took meatloaf and I made it in the shape of a cake, and I frosted it with whipped whipped mashed potatoes. And I had my decorator tips out. Man, I had this thing just decked out.
Sounds good.
It was no tomorrow. And then for dessert, I made spaghetti and meatballs. And what I did is I used like strawberry shortcake. And then I put like a raspberry sauce on it to look like spaghetti sauce, and I had piped in some frosting in it to make it look like spaghetti, and then I put like raspberry sauce on it, and I took malt balls and I nicked them up with a knife, a serrated knife, to make them look like meatballs. Okay, so we sit down at the table, and one of my children, who did not have a sense of humor at all at the time, not at all, okay, no sense of humor whatsoever, was relatively pissed off at everything. Okay, just because the world sucked to him at 2 years old. I mean, I could tell lots of stories about my kids, right? But this is actually a true story. So we sit down at the table, and then I bring the cake to the table, which was actually meatloaf. Kids are cheering. They're having a great time. And one of my kids, which is a little higher on the spectrum of intelligence than the rest of them, I'm going to say,
You were having a little fun with it. I'm taking a guess who it is, too.
Stopped everyone at the table and said, "Hey, wait a minute here. This is mom here." and in their small child self of being, very young, says something's wrong, guys. Don't buy it, right? And the rest of
critical thinking it too.
The rest of the kids are cheering, "Yay, we're getting cake for dinner, cake for dinner." The cheers for mom were going up, could have been heard from here to Taiwan, right? And I cut the cake, which was actually meatloaf, and I put them on the plate. They're still cheering, and all of a sudden, the one that is always pissed off all the time looks down at the plate and goes, he is so mad. There's no words to describe it. He is just furious. He's like, "I'm not eating that. That's me. I'm not eating it." He gets so mad. He is absolutely furious, right? And so then we got over it, but it took a little while before we got to the spaghetti and meatball dessert. But it was absolutely hilarious. And our family actually does stuff like this besides talking around the table about supreme nerd things. All right. So one time we're sitting at the table, and I'd say everybody in my family is extraordinarily adept at conversational skills, probably way too much. Okay. We're like the people that you say, "Please shut up. You're talking too much" at the table. Right. So anyhow, so my husband, who likes to set everybody up. All right. My husband has got, he's funny. And if he can get you, he will. Okay. And he's extraordinarily intelligent. And so he starts eating one night, and he's like, throws it out on the table. "Did you know that armadillos carry leprosy?" And all of us put our utensils down, and we're like, "Nope, he's not sucking me into that one. Ain't gonna happen." And so we're sitting, and he just keeps eating, and it's totally dead silent at the table as we're trying to figure out, is he getting us, or is there truth to this one? And so we try to muddle through this without looking it up on Google or something like that, so we didn't look extremely stupid at the table, because of course we should have known this, because he threw it out. And finally we took a vote on whether it was true or false, and then looked it up, and it is in fact true.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, why would you know that armadillos carry leprosy? One of those weird things.
It's a medical school question.
To me, it's like a National Geographic thing, and I used to watch all those nature shows. I've always watched nature shows and picks up on the most useless fun facts because I find them interesting.
I was just thinking about that the other day, like all this trivial knowledge that we know, and some people obviously know just tremendous amounts of knowledge. Like, how much of it isn't true now?
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast from this professor that says so many of these papers and things that have been put out there are false, to lead us in the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
This is from like a Harvard professor said this. And I think in medicine, it's probably the worst, but maybe Egypt and things like that.
So speaking of useless information, last night was the Ig Nobel Prize ceremony, which I love watching that. This is not the Nobel Prizes. This is the Ig Nobel Prizes,
What's
which
that?
they award prizes for
Stupidity.
research that makes you laugh and then makes you think is what they say. And
Oh.
so a lot of it is just really silly papers. So the ceremony is hilarious. So
How do you
like
spell that, Ralph?
IG space NOBEL.
Okay.
And so last night was the annual prize ceremony, and they did stuff like they awarded the physics prize for a group of researchers for demonstrating and explaining the swimming abilities of a dead trout.
What? A dead trout?
Yeah.
And likely our scholars fund this nonsense.
Yeah. Basically, they figured out that that just by the shape of a trout, they move with the currents as the way they're streamlined, and this has implications for aerodynamics. The way that they're streamlined, a dead trout moves through the water if in a current almost as well as a live trout. And so they showed that basically a trout takes really minimal amounts of energy to be able to move through the water, just because passively the way their bodies are built move through the water so well.
Wow. Interesting.
They had another one that was for the medicine prize. It was for demonstrating that fake medicine that causes painful side effects can be more effective than fake medicine that does not cause painful side effects.
I could have told them that. I always used to say, if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't work. For skincare is what I was talking about.
For skincare.
The group of researchers did a paper on it.
The more it stings, the person has to feel it a little bit working.
Well, I don't feel any better, and I was itching for more than a week from them stupid yellow jackets.
Well, I was talking
I got to be real healthy, because I really believe that the bee stings that I got where they set their stingers and didn't really itch that much, but where they were crawling around in my hands, I think they were just like sitting there going, nee, 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 nee. I ended up having to remove all kinds of crap from my hands. Yeah, we got stung on the same week.
Oh, boy.
All right, so here's one. Here's the Ig Nobel Prize. Let's see. We've got peace, citation, experiments to see the feasibility of housing live pigeons inside missiles to guide their flight path of the missiles.
Yep, that was actually a thing. They tried to use pigeons before computers could be miniaturized enough. They tried to use pigeons for guidance.
Botany. Let's see. Finding evidence that some real plants imitate the shapes of neighboring artificial plastic plants.
That was a really interesting one, because it actually kind of indicated that somehow there's one species of plant that's a mimic plant. Somehow this plant must be able to see the plants that are around it, because despite having some distance between them, it is still able to mimic other plants around it. It was really interesting research, but it sounds absolutely absurd at first. But then you start looking at it, and it's like, wow, there's actually some interesting things about this.
Okay, here's one. Studying whether the hair on the heads of most people in the northern hemisphere swirls in the same direction, clockwise or counterclockwise. All right. On
the mimicry, I've watched some programs on octopi, and that's fascinating. You can't tell me that these creatures, quote unquote, evolved to be able to do the things that they can do. They were created by someone who is more intelligent than all of us.
Yep. Yeah, there was one prize a few years ago that was quite well circulated. That was I think the biology prize was awarded for a paper that tried to figure out why pregnant women don't tip over.
You know what? I can tell you why pregnant women don't tip over. your base of how you stand
Oh,
is
yeah.
like, it's like
I
it's
could
a
have told you that.
counterweight. Yeah.
And I've never been pregnant, but I just, observe.
Yeah,
Well,
I've got personal experience in this.
It's
Well,
counterbalance, that's all.
somebody got research funding for that.
Well, and
Yeah.
you also don't do stupid stuff because you're carrying a baby, okay? You're not going to be, you're not going to be doing as many stupid things because it is not comfortable. It is by pure, there you go, David, there's the pain thing, It's like it's going to
Yeah.
limit what you really want to do. Kind of like a hen on a nest. You're just going to kind of sit still a little bit more. You might go out and walk, but I'm pretty extra sure in the 9th month, you're not going to be running a marathon.
No, you better not. Well, this just reminds me of those. If you look at the budget that Congress passes, all this money they send to these foreign countries to do these crazy studies that just make no sense. It's money laundering, basically.
It sure is. Oh, this
Just
is
to
so
change the
weird.
subject. Just to change the subject.
I'm going to go ahead and I emailed an article to myself. I'm going to see if I can find it in my email. My email's been really, really slow lately. And it was interesting. It's about the budget that they have and how much money they actually did money launder. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Gender studies in African countries, $10 million, $5 million. It's so bad.
Let's see where it is. I know I sent it to myself this morning. That's what I do. I send myself articles.
Yeah, that's a good way of keeping track of them.
Yeah, let's see if I can find. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, so it's got to be here somewhere.
Well, while you're looking, I'm going to just make a quick comment.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Do you guys ever notice the number 17 everywhere? I mean, I know people,
Yes.
but literally every time I open up my phone and I go on Telegram to a certain channel and things, there'll be 17 comments every single time. I started actually just taking screenshots, and I literally have hundreds of them. Like, I'll go on X, there'll be 17 messages for me. It's the craziest thing. And it can't be just some random, it can't be random because it's way too much that's happening.
Yeah.
I have no idea why.
Guess you're blessed.
You guys notice that?
I have noticed it more,
Well,
not as random, although there was one channel. It wasn't the number 17, it was a different number. Every time I looked, when I got into the channel, there would be a lot more than that particular number of postings there. But it always seemed to be like 11, the number 11 or something. But yeah, it can happen, but usually I see them in it's news articles usually, or certain people's postings that will have a 17. Trump says 17 all the time.
Well, I even
and
got
he'll do it like as if it's random.
I got a video of my wedding that a friend sent me. It's 17 minutes long. Like, it's crazy.
I've got another little random comment, but it's a little more off the grid related. So I think a lot of gardeners are having a problem this year where they had a lot of tomatoes start, but then they weren't changing to red. And it might be because of this warm weather we have extending that might be happening, but we're getting such cold nights that it's been hard for the peppers and the tomatoes to change over. We had some volunteer tomatoes growing as a result of our chickens, and I had a ton of green tomatoes. I mean, for me, who's never grown tomatoes before, it seemed like a ton. But anyway, I had a lot of tomatoes that I knew were never going to ripen because these plants grew up in the shade. And a friend told me about green tomato Jello jam. At least that's what I call it. And so I looked it up, I got a recipe, and I tried it. And if you haven't done that and you have green tomatoes, try it out, because when you're preserving food for just because you're not fearful, but because you are preparing and you're smart and you might want something sweet in the wintertime. Or you want something to barter later on when other people have sweet cravings and all they have is things that are not sweet. This is another thing that you can do. You take about 2.5 cups of pureed green tomatoes, 2 cups of sugar, and a 3-ounce box of Jell-O. Whatever flavor you like. Strawberry works really well. You heat up and put to full rolling boil the sugar and the tomatoes. And when that's mixed up good for 10 minutes at a full rolling boil, then you mix in the Jell-O until it's dissolved, and then you can put that in whatever containers, refrigerate or freeze it, or you can even can it. It turns out just like jam. It tastes and looks like strawberry jam if you use strawberry. I've made strawberry, raspberry, and cherry. And it spreads a little bit more sticky-like, but it otherwise is quite convincing as a strawberry jam.
It goes back to like foraging, to be able to forage for food. There's so much food around us. And, when we hear about, I don't know, the all of the fear that's out there of food shortages and such, it's like, yeah, well, if you're not prepared, it's going to be a little more difficult. However, with that said, there's so much stuff you can eat out there. It's amazing. Okay. So like May apples, they used to make May apple jam, but I'm going to say the qualifier here. So make sure you're listening to the whole thing. They're poisonous until you get to like about 2 days out of the year.
What are?
May apples. And they're the little umbrella looking plants. When you're out in the woods, they're everywhere. And they develop a little fruit on them. Two little fruits on each plant, little umbrella plants. And they'll be growing and growing. And then all of a sudden in one day, they'll all be gone because the raccoons will like eat them all. Right. And so if you know what to look for, you can pick them. But that goes back to foraging for food. But that's a great idea, Karen. I've never heard that one before.
That's why I thought it was there. I mean, it's just maybe other people have great recipes for green tomatoes. I don't, because I've just never done anything with them before. But I had them. I didn't want them to go to waste. And it was a great way to put them to use.
This year sucked for tomatoes in Michigan. Absolutely. Everybody I know had a problem with ripening. And I know people in Iowa, that same thing. Could not their tomatoes did not ripen.
Why?
So they got to one stage and they just rotted on the vine.
Because it's been so hot?
The weather was just weird this year. Weird weather and some
plants. Who knows what's in the air?
Now don't tell me, it's like I honestly don't tell me, but it's like, let's talk about zucchinis. This was a bumper crop year for zucchinis. Unbelievable how much zucchini we got. And potatoes too. Potatoes, good year for potatoes, good year for zucchini. There's some of the plants like different weather, and some just aren't, all that hardy. But that brings up something else about tomatoes, which tomatoes is a nightshade, and that is another thing to be kind of aware of. Good and bad. Almost everything out there. There's very few things that are truly 100% poisonous. And that's true. It is always the dosage, just like when you look at medicinal herbs, it's or anything, it's always in the dosage. Okay. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, and you guys, I haven't told you the complete story about that, and I literally went off the grid because there was no help, there was no answers on things. I'm like, well, great, I'm gonna figure this out myself, right? And so I started looking into different things that some people probably wouldn't be open to trying. And I tried everything. And I'm like, but I study, I'm a nerd. So I would study the dosage. It's just like anything else. If you had a bottle of ibuprofen or something on the table and decided to take the whole bottle, it ain't going to end well for you, right?
Tylenol.
What's that? Tylenol or any of those?
Deadly.
And so you look at this stuff and it's always the dosage, always. Yeah. But if you can figure things out, and you get the dosage figured out on how these things help. Even nightshade. Nightshade can be a real problem in some situations, and in others, I think it's worth looking into. I really do. But the nightshade plants, like the leaves of tomatoes as well as green potatoes, are in fact poisonous because they are both nightshades.
Mm-hmm.
So something to think about. But
is it just the green ones that can kill you? Is it just the green tomatoes, or
green tomatoes are a problem if you eat too many of them?
Okay, but not ripe ones.
No, but the leaves, you want to eat the tomato leaves. The tomato leaves are in fact not good to eat and will hurt you.
Okay.
There's a toxic nightshade growing in that same area. I pulled it everywhere I found it, and I don't know why it came up. I don't know that I've ever toxic nightshade.
Deadly nightshade,
deadly
belladonna.
nightshade?
What? Both of you are talking. I don't know that it was belladonna. That's what the plant app ID told me. The plant ID app that I have.
If you find any more, don't pull it. I want to come look at it.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. It actually can be used in a medicinal way if you use it properly. This is not an endorsement. Don't anybody go out and do that and then try to blame Donna Brandenburg because you were dumb enough not to look into it. Okay.
Oh no.
It's like, I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that to anybody else.
Right. I know that there's a lot of plants on my property that I identified this spring and summer that are toxic. And a lot of them are toxic to pets, horses, dogs, people. But there are some that are more than others. And that particular one is invasive, which is why I pulled it, because I don't want it spreading, and it spreads. But there are a lot of those can be used medicinally. But when I started looking at it, it was like, okay, I am not prepared to even attempt that. I don't have the knowledge and the skill to use it, but I'm aware of where it is. I'm aware that it is on my property. So if in the future at some point it became more important to somebody, that it could be collected and used for that purpose.
It has become very important to me at this moment.
Okay. Well, I know I have berries around too, probably, even if the plants aren't around, but I could probably find some plants for you. I'll get some pictures and send it to you if I find it.
Perfect. That is just absolutely perfect. That's not a bad thing to know. You know, it's good to know where the poisons of the medicines are, because remember, things are toxic. Very few things are toxic, just flat out toxic. And I mean, fentanyl is one of them. Fentanyl is a created drug, right? But other things, if you got to study it. You don't just go out there and all of a sudden, like a horse, grab a mouthful of something and eat it. I knew something. So like, I don't get poison ivy. My dad didn't get poison ivy. We don't react to it. And my dad had a friend that he said, you want to get rid of poison ivy, and he grabbed a handful of it and he ate it.
Oh,
I would never in a million years do this. I think it's nuts. It's crazy. It was an old farmer moment of stupidity, in my opinion. There's not a chance I would do this. Okay. But he grabbed a handful of poison ivy and ate it. But if you go into homeopathy, they sell, and I've tried this, they sell something called Roostox. And Roostox is a homeopathic remedy for poison ivy. And what it is it's homeopathy is you take what is the thing that's a malady that you're dealing with. And Roostox is poison ivy. And you take it by putting like little they come in like little beads, and you put it underneath your tongue. So if you go to a health food store, you can buy Roostox.
Mm-hmm.
Roostox is a treatment for poison ivy, but I got a better one than that. And that's the fact that where poison ivy grows, you will almost always find jewelweed. Jewelweed is an antidote for poison ivy.
And nettles.
And I've never done the nettles one, but the jewelweed is.
Unfortunately, nettles has been growing in my strawberry patch. So it's a little surprise, an unpleasant surprise, when you reach for a strawberry and you get a nettle sting. And unfortunately, they didn't also grow with jewelweed in my strawberry patch. But fortunately, Karen learned a few things earlier this year, and in one of those is that plantain grows all around my property too. So I have reached right down because my strawberry patch is raised. It's a raised bed. So I reached down and grabbed some plantain, chomped on it, spit it up on my stung hand, and made it feel better pretty quickly.
That's cool. Nettles are also supposed to be really good for allergies.
Nettle tea.
Yep.
Yep. So there's a lot of things that you can eat. I mean, it's like squash blossoms. You can eat the flowers of squash blossoms, and high-end restaurants use them all the time, as well as daylilies. You know, the daylilies, the tiger lilies that you see in the ditches. You can eat the blossoms. I've eaten the blossoms of that. I can just tell you is that as the younger they are, the better they are. They get tough as they get older. So if you eat the ones that aren't quite open, they've got kind of a peppery taste to them. But once again, take the time to identify them. Don't just go grab something and shove it in your mouth and eat it. Like one of my kids did when they were young. One of my kids was Mr. Angry, Mr. Adventurous. He would do anything. You know, he was that kid that was out there like laying in the mud, laying in the mud and a total savage. Total complete savage.
This is funny because you've talked about how you were farming in worms. When I was a little kid, this is a story my mom told me because I don't really remember it. That's my excuse for how young and silly I was, because I don't remember it. That's how young I was. But apparently I used to dig up worms and have them in each hand and have them talking to each other.
So what did they say?
Two brothers, and they didn't want to play with me.
What did the worms say, Karen?
I have no idea. I don't remember that.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's
I
hilarious.
always used to catch frogs and toads. I've thought about getting pet frogs before. I think that would be fun.
What's that? A pet frog?
Yeah, I've thought about that before. Not the big Pac-Man frogs. Those I couldn't do that. But some of the smaller, like the aquatic frogs, some of those guys are pretty fun.
I love watching them around. I've seen them around the property, the teeny tiny ones in the springtime. They're so cute. I like going to the zoo and seeing the little poison dart frogs.
Yeah, those are cool. Cute little guys.
I had a dog once that she liked to chase down toadies. I call them toadies. And she would grab one and quickly spit it out, make the funniest faces.
Oh, funny. I had somebody that posted that says, "Where is Ammon Bundy?" And the guy somebody came after him and said, such and such named him and said, "It's now known as FBI surveillance." Yeah, they're watching this. They're watching everything. Knock yourselves out, guys. Knock yourselves out. Whatever.
Yeah, so other garden things, in the nightshades, do you know that eggplants have nicotine?
I did not know that.
Basically, everything in the nightshade family has nicotine to a certain percentage, but eggplants have like the highest of any of the nightshades. So, yeah, theoretically, you could get addicted to eggplants.
I did grow some, but I don't think I know what I'm doing growing them, so I don't think I harvested them at the right time.
There's no really right time. You can harvest them anytime.
They didn't do too well. I shouldn't say none. A lot of my plants didn't do too well this year. It was our first attempt, and I learned a lot. So I'm not trying to be hard on myself, and I know that a lot of other gardeners had similar problems than I did. So even if we did everything right, we would still have had some problems. But yeah, I did learn a lesson though. I wasn't poking around the eggplants very often, and when I went to harvest, I reached for the base of the fruit where
Ouch.
you're gonna don't do that. It has thorns on it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I wasn't really paying attention to it while I was watering it every day.
They're better too if you can harvest them when they're a little smaller and they don't have quite so many seeds. And then they kind of like, you can just keep getting eggplants if you get them when they're small.
Well, and the skin on them gets tougher when they get real big. The smaller they are, they're real delicate, sort of like a zucchini. And you know what my least favorite squash is? The yellow summer squash. I hate those things. It's like when they get bigger than like about, I don't know, maybe an inch and a half around. They're disgusting. It's like eating, it's like eating. The skin gets real thick and nasty on them, and there's no way to make it better other than peel it, throw half of it away.
I grew some of those straight neck yellow squash, but I had tried one zucchini and it got a borer in it, and that was that. And then all of my squashes got borers. And
really,
yeah, I got some squashes out of them, but by the time late in the summer, when I could see that they definitely had borers in them, and I was trying to treat them and it wasn't quite working. So I pulled them and looked inside, and I took pictures. It was gross. There was definitely borers that had survived the treatment I did. And so they were definitely not going to be more productive. So I pulled them. But yeah, that was very unfortunate. A lot of people had that problem this year too. Borers were really bad in squashes.
FBI surveillance just said, "Oh no, you figured me out." LOL, that's hilarious. So did you use like diatomaceous earth, or did you use anything like that?
I didn't use that, but I did use it's called BT. It's a bacterial thing that you can spray the plant with. Some people inject it right up into the stem. When the borers get into the stem, and then they dig things out. They dig out the stem of the plant, and it's kind of hollow anyway in those plants. But then they like anything that digs out, you get this little crumble outside of the hole, and that's one way to tell that you have a borer. Well, they were doing it at the base of my short plants. These didn't come out and vine all over the ground. It's a bush type plant in the way we grew them in containers. So if it got in the stem, you can't just like some people would put a weight on a vine and grow roots into that vine so that it's independent of the rest of the plant, and it can still grow the fruit on the end despite the borers. But when it's in the very base of the plant, you lose the entire plant one piece at a time. So that was a tricky part, but
one thing
I didn't inject it. I sprayed it into the hole, but I didn't like inject it up into it. And they look like little white grubs or reddish grubs. I had two different kinds, I think, or two different stages of life. I don't know what it was, but it was gross.
Just to change the subject a little bit, we're getting really close, to the election, like 50 days or something. And I think the deep state's getting really desperate. And I did hear from somebody about, and I know we've heard this over and over again, but there is a chance that the power literally could go out for a few weeks. So
General Flynn even posted about that.
At least.
I would share it too.
Something that's an surety.
So be prepared, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a few sacks of rice and jars of peanut butter just to survive, and make sure you have water.
Yeah, if you're going to have jars of peanut butter and rice, you're going to need some water.
Yeah, exactly. But,
yeah, it's like, for gosh sakes, have toilet paper so we don't repeat that little debacle again. I mean, that was the dumbest thing. I mean, watching people lose their mind over toilet paper.
Yeah. And keep a full tank of gas. Don't let it get low and then go to the gas station. Just keep filling it up, topping it off.
And I would say, extra oil, extra windshield wiper fluid.
Well, I'm thinking it's going to go out for like a couple of weeks to a month, not like for a year. It's like, what do you need to get through, 2 to 4 weeks? Just make sure you have it.
Bill had a great point the other day. It's something I hadn't thought about. I've worked with first responder systems before. And so I'm familiar with the planning that goes on in case of certain types of situations. For example, if there's a tornado, there's a written plan in place, and between local PDs and FDs, there is a plan on how they interact and handle a situation that they expect to happen from time to time. A tornado, a thunderstorm, a winter storm that knocks the power out for 2-3 days at a time, a flood. They have it on paper because they know that's a likelihood. What happens with a township level fire department? My township doesn't have one, but a neighboring township does have a fire department, and it's pretty small. So Bill had questioned what kind of plan is in place for a longer term lack of electrical grid support for a fire department. If you have a home on fire in that kind of situation where at length there is no power grid, there is no communication system that's going to be well supported on a wide level, how do you save lives, basically? Because that's what a fire department is all about. You know, if you had a fire department that still had an old wagon with a big old water tank on it and a team of horses and a Dalmatian to protect them from the neighborhood dogs running along, you might be able to get around and do some damage on a fire. But ambulance, policing services on a very local level, those things are impacted by an off-the-grid situation. And I don't know that any department in Michigan is really prepared for an at-length scenario like that. On paper and certainly not in training.
I don't think there is a plan for a grid down anywhere from what I've heard.
Well, the problem is that you got to grab power from somewhere. So there's I'm looking at this link that you put there, Ralph, ham info.
Yeah. So
Can you go there a minute?
What's that?
Let's go there. Why did you post that?
Well, something else to think about here too is that if you don't already have a ham radio license, you might want to know where your nearest ham radio people are. And since when you get a ham radio license, your license information is public.
Mm-hmm.
There are places like this that you can get, you can put in a zip code or an address and find a map of all of the licensed hams that are near you.
Okay, give me a random zip code.
Well, that's cool. 48324.
Ooh, that's cool.
And then I think if you click on them, it'll give you their name and address.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's really cool.
That is cool.
That's really cool.
Ham info.
It would be great if we had a setup like that for people who are, say, certified in CPR.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a huge overlap between people that are interested in ham radio and kind of emergency response kind of stuff. So like there's a ton of people that are weather spotters for the National Weather Service that are hams.
Yep.
And a lot of the search and rescue people are as well.
Yep.
Pretty much anytime you go to any of the big like marathons or even 5K races, a lot of times the people that they have involved in those are ham radio people as well, because we'll actually get notices from municipalities that are doing like marathons and 5Ks saying, hey, we need some communications people to be able to watch the route and call in any medical emergencies to the medical staff.
Kent County has a very good setup like that. They have a emergency department that encompasses the sheriff and search and rescue and others. And so like with the mud run that they do in Kent County, they do exactly that. And they have an annual race that they do that with too.
Yeah, so not all of those people are going to be, not all of the hams on there are going to be people that can do long distance communications. Some of them are only going to have radios for short distance communications. I mean, there's so much you can do with ham radio but it gives you a good place to kind of start. And When the grid is down is not the time to go look that information up to see who's near you. The time to do that is before the grid goes down, so you know who to contact if you need to get a hold of somebody.
Kind of like
you just want to know what's going on.
If you're coming up on a time where you can't get toilet paper, probably a good idea to have a little bit on hand before you get into a panic.
Don't go to the ham radio guys looking for toilet paper.
Does the ham radio,
they might shoot you before you get there.
Can the ham radio connect to emergency services?
In a lot of cases, yes. From a technical standpoint, pretty much all of them can. From a legal standpoint, typically you can only, as a ham, I think don't quote me on this, but I think the rule is that you can actually broadcast onto emergency services communication channels if there is a danger to life. That's usually the guideline. I don't know the legalities of that, so don't quote me on that. I've never had to use it. However, most of the time, there are ways for hams to get a hold of emergency services that are not through their internal communications networks. Like during severe weather watches, the National Weather Service will usually put all of the ham radio networks around here in direct contact with themselves so that people can call it in directly to the National Weather Service through the ham radio system. And so a lot of times during emergencies, they'll have police departments, fire departments, whatever, will actually station somebody on the ham radio networks so that they can be called directly without cluttering up their internal communications.
Got it. Yeah, I think if your house is on fire or something, you're going to deal with the fine if they're going to give you a fine.
You can also look it up. Their channels, I think, are public, aren't they, Ralph?
Yep.
Where you can find out what your county sheriff's department, what your county fire department. There might be a separate ambulance channel. I have a scanner app that I use on my phone, but the radio can be used as a scanner too. So all the time, well, not all the time. It used to be when I lived in a city, all the time there was police going down my house, right down my road. But there's often, because our road is a fairly common transport for fire department, sheriff, troopers, ambulances, they all will come down here screaming. And if there's more than one or two vehicles, sometimes I'll turn my scanner app and try to find out what's going on. And that's how I'll find out. Just a few miles down the road, there might be a big house fire going on for hours or something like that.
There are a lot of places where emergency services, it's actually written into law that emergency services have to have their dispatch communications open to the public, basically for accountability reasons. And some of them do it voluntarily. Some of them it's required by law. It depends on where you're at. But yeah, there's a lot of that stuff that is, there's a lot of communications that go on that are fully out in the public and are permissible to listen to.
Yep. There's even Facebook groups. There's one for West Michigan Scanner, something like that you can listen to. You can see there's somebody that's usually, I don't know, it's like their hobby, and they will post a lot of interesting things that they're overhearing on the scanner. And typically they won't have a whole lot of their personal opinion or anything on there. They'll just say this is what they're hearing. And so even if somebody doesn't have a scanner, if they have access to Facebook, they can find things. And occasionally someone will say, hey, my loved one had an incident yesterday. Did anybody, is there a recording? Can anybody tell me what happened on the scanner? Or the other day there was somebody that posted in there about how there was an altercation between them and a spouse or an ex, and they wanted to thank whoever called 911 because somebody called 911, and authorities got there, and this person said they saved them and their child.
That's cool.
And so that was kind of interesting unusual post in there, but yeah.
I got a heads up here a minute. I missed a text last night, so Ammon Bundy isn't going to be able to be on this morning. We'll have to reschedule him. So There we go. We'll go to our citizen journalist panel, and that's going to be where we're going to go today. So, and we'll just have to reschedule that. So anyhow, my bad on the text. So anyhow, continue on. Talk amongst yourselves a minute.
So something that comes up for communications for emergency stuff that doesn't really get enough attention, in my opinion, is a bunch of the electric car manufacturers have been really pushing lately to try and drop AM radios from their cars and just do FM radios.
Yeah.
Well, the reason they're doing that is because basically they're not wanting to make their cars interference compliant for radios, because with the electric cars, that becomes somewhat more difficult when you're handling large amounts of power to keep them from basically broadcasting on the radio themselves and interfering with everything around them. So now what they're trying to do is push to drop AM radio from cars so that they can basically get away with exceeding the limits. The problem that you have with that is that AM radio, whether you listen to it or not, is a fantastic emergency communication system.
Really?
Yeah, you can pick up AM radio with like darn near nothing for equipment, number one.
Oh, yeah, pick it up, but can you transmit?
Yes, it's much, much simpler than FM radio is to broadcast. And one of the other big benefits of it is that it can carry very, very, very far. And so there is not many people know about this, but there is a communications network that that is kind of run behind the scenes by the U.S. government to keep the AM radio system up and running for emergency broadcast. And so they've got a few strategic AM radio stations around the country. I think it's something like 12 of them or something like that, that are set up to be able to reach the entire country from like 12 broadcast stations. Wow. And those particular stations have got, I believe they're generally staffed 24/7. They have enough food and water to be able to sustain that staff for, I believe it's 30 days.
Wow.
And enough fuel for a generator to be able to run them continuously for, I believe it's also at least 30 days. And so AM radio, and this is something that FM radio, you would need like thousands of these sites to be able to do this. Whereas AM radio, you can do it with just a very minimal amount of infrastructure. And so for emergencies, it's actually kind of critical that system stays up, in my opinion. It's a huge resource, and it would be a major loss to the United States in particular, because we're geographically spread out so far, for AM radio to get dropped. There's better arguments for dropping it in Europe, because it's easier for them to cover, smaller countries with FM radio. But here in America, it's kind of critical that system stays up just for that reason, even if you never listen to it otherwise.
Is it kind of like the modern day version of the fires of Minas Tirith?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I'm going to share a link that Dr. David just posted. This is great. I love it. You guys are posting like a bunch of little badgers digging a hole out there.
Yeah, it says the emergency AES is a national public warning system commonly used by state and local authorities to deliver emergencies over AM radio. It's an essential warning system.
Yep. And when we had internal combustion engine cars, no problem. Those are easy to insulate against accidentally broadcasting on AM and not exceeding the power limits for having interference leave the car. It's just the electric cars that, and they can do it. It's just, it makes it harder for them. So they're really pushing to try and drop this.
Yeah. We have a Tesla and the AM radio doesn't doesn't work or it's not even there.
Yeah,
but they give you like a list of all the AM their FM counterparts.
Yeah, and you can pick up AM radio with like almost nothing. Like you can build an AM radio out of utter junk.
Crystal.
FM is a lot harder, but AM you can take like a piece of like copper flashing, let it rust outside for a little bit. Not rust, but oxidize for a little bit. You can make a diode out of that, and that's just about all you need to actually pick up AM radio is that and a coil of wire.
What about a crystal? Want to use a crystal or something?
No, that's what the copper's for. You can actually use oxidized copper. Was one of the early ways that you can make a semiconductor, and so it turns it into a diode, and so you can make it's like a whisker or a point contact diode out of that allows you to pick up radio as a crystal radio. It doesn't require power, and you can make it out of multiple materials. Galena crystals were another one that were an early form of that, but there you have to have a galena deposit near you, which is like it's a lead oxide.
Yeah, everybody's got those.
Yeah,
it's so amazing how many options we really have that we don't think we have when you get in and study just a little bit. You start studying a little bit and then you compile more and more and more and more knowledge, and after a while you're a walking encyclopedia of knowledge. That's the way it used to work. Do you remember when you guys were all kids and, you'd sit and you'd listen to the people that were older than you, and they knew all these great things because they didn't have conveniences at their hands. So they had to know how to do this stuff with or without anybody around. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the core tenet of Off the Grid is learning to MacGyver your way through anything, no matter what. There's always an option to do things differently. But if the grid goes down, you're not going to be able to Google it. You're going to have to figure out how to do it on your own.
That's why when I discovered these plants on my property, I wrote notes. I called it yard notes. And I would say, I found this plant. This is what it looks like. This is what it can be used for. And it's over in the chicken yard. Nice. So I knew where to find it on my little acreage, too, so that if in the future, it might not be in the chicken yard now. Maybe the chickens don't eat it. Maybe they do. Maybe I pulled it up. I got pokeberry all over in there. And that's another one it's invasive. So
I hate that stuff. That is a miserable plant.
Black walnut. Anybody need black walnut? Come help us dig it up.
Here's my final word on this. Since we're reaching the top of the hour, now's the time to prepare. First off, you don't have to build your own radio. You can probably buy one on Amazon for $10, an AM radio, but be prepared right now. If there's ever a time, it's right now. Be prepared for everything.
Yep. Yeah, nothing to be afraid of. This is
belladonna.
Oh yeah. Well, we
belladonna is a homeopathic remedy. I have that as a homeopathic remedy.
Well, we use belladonna alkaloids in medicine all the time. Atropine. So when your heart is beating too slow or you go into cardiac arrest, we use atropine, which increases your heart rate. There's scopolamine, which is an anesthetic, which is that's what they use to basically, it's an amnesiac too. So they use it in South America and stuff. They poison people, Americans, with it and empty their bank accounts, and they wake up, they don't even remember anything.
And what's that called? That's
called scopolamine.
Scopolamine.
Yeah, and then there's another derivative that is used for, used to be called Donatol. It may still be around for GI upset. It slows down your GI system if it's acting up.
Look, Donna, we got a medicine named after you.
Yeah,
several of those are supposed to be good for pneumonia too, aren't they?
I've heard that.
Oh yeah, to help loosen up the mucus. Yeah.
They actually used two of those on my mom when she was in the hospital before she died.
Scopolamine is for seasickness. You guys have probably taken it before.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Okay, I'm going to post this. Everybody getting to know your alternative things, you know,
Yep.
ways around.
And for anyone listening who is like, wow, there might be medicinal plants, or I might be able to find alternatives. We've talked about this on previous shows on BNN with Dr. David.
Very careful about trying to make that stuff yourself, though. I mean, those are like
No, but we've talked about the concept of foraging, and that there are some other natural remedies that are known for simple situations. And you've mentioned before too, just like the ham radio, you can easily go and get an anti-inflammatory or something to help with real basic but common kinds of issues and illnesses. You can get it for just a few bucks right now and have it on hand. And some of us have been slowly building up first aid kits with what we can and what we find, and thinking of things in different ways. And it's really nice to have that little comfort zone that you've got, and having multiple sources of your first aid kit. Have one in each vehicle. Have one in your house that's easy to access. Have one if you've got a shelter of some sort in your home, or underneath your home, or in your hillside, or wherever it is, when there's going to be a bad storm, have a first aid kit in there. It might not have everything that every other kit you have has. But yeah. I like to keep one in my car. I like to keep Narcan, but it is temperature sensitive. When I travel, if I find somebody that's unconscious and it fits the bill, then I've got Narcan that can help them. If I come across a car accident, I have the knowledge, but do I have the tools? If I have a first aid kit in my car, I might be the first responder of a car accident that can help somebody, because I have the training on how to use that stuff. So have that kind of stuff spread around so you can access it when you might need it.
And, you can even do like a group of people and have, put together a group of people in order to decide what skill sets people have, and divide and conquer the issues of what happens if the grid goes down, so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And then you've got the collective wisdom of years of different experience to figure your way out around things. I think that's really important. Roz says that she uses her daughter uses Rust Tox for poison ivy. And Lev also says she's been seeing reports that the U.S. and NATO has okayed Ukraine to drop bombs deep inside of Russia. Good way to stop the election. I'm going to say another thing. I want to thank everybody out there that jumped on the conference call last night to work on resolutions. It was absolutely amazing. We got a lot, and I mean a lot done. And it's I appreciate what everybody did. Karen, you were spectacular, so thank you for being on.
I was working on it this morning before this, and I'll keep on it. I was editing one of them this morning, so I'll keep working on that. It's funny because to me, I've done a lot of this kind of thing. From years ago, I was a member of an international organization, and I was responsible for writing and editing some position statements. So it's kind of similar to resolutions. And then, of course, as a former assembly member, we did a lot of writing of things too. So,
all right, boys and girls, 30 seconds to your sign off. What any last words?
Well, preparedness is, not about fear. Never do it out of fear. But now is the time to take the opportunity to do this stuff, to get everything lined up and be prepared so that something happens, you're good to go.
Yeah, and I would just second that and just say that, like you just said about Ukraine and stuff, a lot of people don't know what's going on out there, but the bad guys are getting desperate, and to take down the power grid would be just a smart next move for them. So be prepared for it, and you'll probably have fun. 2 weeks with no TVs, radios, people calling you. You could probably.
You might have to talk to people. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, but man, you're not going to have a good time if you don't have any food or water.
I want to take a moment and just praise God. We had something happen yesterday that was unexpected. We had something planned, and it went well, but not quite as planned. But what it did was actually prevent something more disastrous that was pending, and we did not know that. And God did know that, and God was a part of the situation, and I am so, so grateful. There is so much that He does for us that we don't always know. Sometimes He shows His hand and lets us know that He is taking care of us. And but we should be thankful all the time, because we don't know what's happening behind the scenes in God's plan. And the fact that we are together today talking about preparedness is a good thing. We are acknowledging without fear the faith that we have, that things will go well, but we do have a responsibility to take care of ourselves and those around us. But I'm so thankful today. I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's good. Well, thank God, because I know what it was, and so it's something that was a big thing. So with that said, everybody, get prepared to be off the grid, and thank you guys for coming on. David, I'll leave you on this morning if you'd like to stay on. Anybody else, if either one of you guys want to stay on, that's okay. Just tell me yes, Donna, leave me on. So we'll go to our next segment, and next segment is with Casey Whalen. We're going to be talking to Ammon Bundy. Is not going to be on this morning. That was my bad. I missed a text. And so, but we'll be right back after a short break. Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 13th day of September 2024, and we're all here. And I'm going to bring in our citizen journalist panel and our buddies and our pals here. We've got Dr. David staying on, Vicky, and Casey Whalen. How are you guys doing this morning?
Hi, just fine, thanks. Thank you for inviting.
Doing well, thank you.
Hey, thanks for jumping on this morning, guys. This is great. I missed your text last night, Casey. So I was deep into resolution creating, and the call went very late, and I think my brain was so fried when I got off of the call, because we were working on 5 different resolutions, and there were a lot of people that showed up to this to put their input in, and it worked actually very well. It was our first resolution meeting that we invited more people in, because I had written 5 resolutions, and then we on the committee from the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is a Constitution Party in Michigan, of which I am the chairman of that committee and vice chair of the party for the state. We've been working on it a little bit, and then we decided to bring more people in so we can do more resolutions and get them out to our public functionaries and tell them we're screwing up and trying to write this thing. So how are you guys doing today?
Just fine, thanks.
Casey?
Doing good.
Okay.
Just
waking
up, drink coffee.
Yeah, I'm not quite there yet. My brain's still fried. So what are we talking about today, guys? Casey, you sent me a whole bunch of links.
Yeah, I left on a trip on Monday early morning to Oregon City, Oregon, to cover the sentencing of Antifa member Alyssa Azar. And then I went to Meridian, Idaho to cover an event with Sheriff Richard Mack of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And he was holding an event with a gentleman running for sheriff in Ada County, Doug Trauble. So I went there to film and help another friend of mine who was filming the event, and so he can make a nice video of that great event in Meridian. So I'll have a bunch of information today, and we'll get into that.
I love Sheriff Mack. He's a really nice guy. And I think the first time I met him, I got to think where I met him first. I think it was John Rich's house. And we went there for an event, and it was a lot of fun, hanging out with patriots who are super committed and teaching each other every step of the way. So you sent me a video. You sent me some links. Do you want to go through it, starting with the Morning Groan compilation? I think you sent that, didn't you, Casey?
Hold on a second. I'm not sure which. I would say play, if you could, the first. Well, hold on. I'll set this up, but play the environment video first. Outside courthouse.
I've got the one it's a YouTube video. It's got like Al Bundy on it.
No. No, that was just a joke. Don't play that one.
For my fun thing. Okay. I was like, I'm not really sure you want to go with that, but hey.
No, the video it says it's entitled Environment Video Outside Courthouse.
Yes,
in the link I posted.
I got it all queued up, so no worries. Let me throw that up there a minute. Okay, there's a buddy.
No, that was the interview I did after the incident.
Okay, let's just
okay, they're not really titled, so I think that's probably it.
Okay, let's try that one.
But don't play it yet. Yeah, that's it. So anyways, this is outside the Clackamas County Courthouse, and I was basically working loosely with the Post Millennial. I've been speaking with Andy No and Katie Davis Court, a reporter for the Post Millennial, and I was trying to film the sentencing on the inside of the courtroom of the sentencing of Alyssa Azar, and I was denied and basically deferred to Katie as she was given permission. She was the pool reporter, and generally, depending on what state you're in, the judge can allow multiple media outlets. I have had it happen in Idaho where they'll sometimes only let one media outlet, and then they have to share their media coverage with everybody else. And so that was the case with this one. And Katie has been extensively covering this trial of Alyssa Azar, an Antifa member who says she's a reporter and she'll show up at events. And in her testimony, she even says that basically they show up to occupy space to confront Antifa, or to confront, the anti-fascists. So they consider anybody who's basically a patriot or conservative an anti-fascist when they're actually the anti-fascists. So Alyssa and her friends would they showed up at this permitted event in June of 2021 at Clackamas Park in Clackamas County, which is next to Portland, Oregon, and I believe they are different counties. I think it's Multnomah, if I'm correct. I'm not sure. I have to go look, but I believe they're different counties. So this happened in an adjacent county right next to Portland, basically. And so back in 2021, at this permitted event at this park, they were doing a voter registration and a flag wave for a gentleman running for office. Antifa planned to show up and occupy the space, quote unquote. The Proud Boys show up. It becomes a confrontation, and basically Alyssa Azar, the reporter there, she had brought mace with her, and she tried to deploy the mace, basically. Long story short, Alyssa was charged with riot, disorderly conduct in the second degree, and dispersal of a chemical weapon in the second degree. And so of those charges, the jury found her guilty last month of riot and disorderly conduct, and then they were hung on the third charge of deploying a chemical weapon, and that will be heard in another jury trial in February of next year, a 6-panel jury. So I showed up on September 9th on Monday, excuse me, outside the Oregon City Courthouse in Clackamas County to film just the environment outside the courthouse. I want to document Antifa going in and out of the courthouse. I can't film even in the courthouse. You have to have permission to even film in there. In other states, you can film in the courthouse without permission, and then you generally need permission to film in the courtroom. But in Oregon, they don't even let you film in the courthouse. I would say the best state I've been to, which is very open, is Montana. They don't even make you fill out a form if you want to film in the courtroom, at least in Flathead County. So it just depends where you're at. So anyways, that's a picture there of her. And there's actually video from Katie Davis Court and Chelly Balfarace, I think is how you say her name. And Chelly is a reporter for the Republica. And I was going to have Chelly come on with me today because she's really great at explaining this, because these ladies, Katie Davis Court and Chelly Balfarace, both live Chelly lives in the Portland area and Katie lives in Washington. And so they've dealt with Antifa, these brave women have dealt with Antifa trying to report on this over the last, I would say, 7-8 years. At least Shelley has in Portland, and they've had assaults and encounters with Antifa, and so they're very brave women. And so there's a video there from Katie Davis Court. I guess you could play that if you want to, just showing Alyssa and the environment in the courtroom with Antifa members there. You see this man, I haven't even really watched this, but I heard he cries.
Thank you.
And the guy that just stepped in the shot was the district attorney, Josh Coutinho, and he asked for the maximum sentence, which is 30 days in jail. The judge only gave her 14 days in jail. So the judge only gave her 14 days in jail. And she has to wear an ankle monitor or bracelet for 36 months. And so that on the left there, that's her lawyer, Lauren Regan, on the far left there. I got to look up the name of the outlet she's with, but it's a like a communist outlet, I would say. And that lawyer put out a message after Alyssa was found guilty, just saying it was a travesty. Alyssa's a reporter, basically, and just condemning the jury's decision. So we'll see where it goes. So if you want to play the next video, because that'll sort of show what the environment was like outside, and then we'll sort of get to why we're going through all this.
Can you see the one? Can you see the one on the bottom and behind the stage here? I'll just put it up. That one.
I'm sorry. It's not that one. Yeah, it's that one.
Okay, I'm gonna have to kind of poke around a little bit because this was the order they were in.
Sure.
Convenient, you're all wearing masks.
Yep.
Republic. Welcome to America.
So that's Katie Davis Court right there, and then right next to her in the blue is Shelley.
I got her coming out.
You did?
Yep.
Did they put her in the car?
She's right. I don't know yet. I was trying to catch that.
Maybe that's the car.
And one of the important things to note is that gentlemen. Well, wait after this.
I can pause there. What were you saying, Casey?
It's almost over. She's just asking them if Alyssa Azar. She was basically like a sex worker. She has an OnlyFans account. So Katie was just asking some questions about the sex work that she was doing here with some other Antifa members. But go ahead. You can just play it out real quick.
What do you think of Azar's conviction? You know if Azar uses her sex work to fund her criminal activities with Antifa?
Outstanding.
So that's just a flavor of it, and then we'll play another video here in a minute, which is it's interesting. What I was trying to say though, the case last August or last month when she was found guilty after the case was over, after the trial was over, a gentleman by the name of John Hacker, who's part of Rose City Antifa, went across the street and actually assaulted a man, and so he was charged and arrested. And then this time, I was the victim. So we're gonna play that video next here. There were police everywhere, as you can kind of see in that video. There was like 5 patrol units, and then we had maybe a half a dozen officers on the ground outside the courtroom or courthouse. So they were expecting something, obviously, and so they were really paying attention. And so I had tried to walk up the street after you saw that last video there. I walked up the street away from the courthouse to try to film some of these people and try to basically film that lawyer for Alyssa Azar. But it basically, you'll see what happens here. But during this whole time when this is happening, I can see out of the corner of my eye, I can see patrol units driving by. Police are really just a block away. They're keeping an eye on things. And so if you want to play the next video, it is the PM video, the post-millennial video. So it's not that one.
Okay, hang on. We're gonna.
And Vicky, you can chime in, Vicky. I'm not trying to dominate the conversation here.
Is this it right here?
No, that's just from the county commissioner. A comment from the county commissioner.
I appreciate that, but this is an important story, so continue.
Okay. You may have to reload it or something. I don't see it.
Yeah, can you repost it in the chat so I can make sure I get the right one?
It's titled PM video.
PM video.
It's one of the earlier ones. I can repost it though.
Yeah, repost it, please, because I am not seeing it.
There you go.
Hang on just a second. This is real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table.
You look like you're in your living room.
Yeah, we're just hanging out here, guys. Okay. Okay, I got it. Takes me a minute here. Hold
It's
on.
working though. Yeah, it is. You're a little annoyed, aren't you?
Let me go back and start it over here a minute.
Crazy behavior.
What is she doing? Like the Three Stooges.
It's working though. Yeah, it is. You're a little annoyed, aren't you?
Standing here filming in public.
Do you get health insurance for that?
Go away.
Go away. I thought you wanted my picture.
Stay back. Stay back.
Hey, you want to smile? You want your picture taken?
Fuck you, bitch.
Fuck you, bitch. Yeah, you can call me a fucking bitch.
Hey, don't push me out.
You called me a fucking bitch.
You're under arrest. Stand by your back. Put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Bridge back. Sit back. Sit back.
Want me to hold this?
She's in a car now.
Why was she getting arrested?
Yep, I'm gonna get my car. Hold on. Somebody talk to the big. What's up?
Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you twice, fuck you 4 times. Get back on the road,
High quality individuals happening there.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I was being harassed for like a block or so while I was trying to film the head of this Antifa little caravan they had. There weren't a lot of people there either. It was mainly women. So I wasn't really intimidated. You never know though. They can gang up on you and you never know what can happen, right? It could just be so fast. So I was trying to be careful yet kind of push it, because there's cops right there. So if they do anything, I felt relatively safe about it. So, but there's a full version of that and it really puts it in context and it shows that you kind of get the gist of it there initially in that video. But as I go down the sidewalk, one guy is shadowing. He's right next to me the whole time. And I pan over and you can see him right there. And then when I get to the front where the rest of the people are, I tell them, I filmed you getting out of your car. You might as well just go back to your car, because that's what they were trying to do. They parked right across the street from the courthouse. They're not too smart. And so the people that got out of that car I filmed was the woman who attacked me. Her name is Natalia Gudvis, and she is about ready to graduate next year from Portland State University in science. And so she's actually taking Russian and that sort of thing. So, yeah, there you go. Andy Nove found this information here. He asked me if I'd got the police report. Well, in Oregon, until the case has been adjudicated, you can't find out. You can't get the mugshot. You can't get the police report. You can't get anything. And so I think Katie Davis Court called the Oregon City Police, and they were able to verify that this is who it was, and that she actually teaches 2 students in the Portland school district or the Portland area. And so we've been tagging the Portland schools, the Portland State University to let them know that this is an individual that is in your midst. And then if you look there on her LinkedIn page, on that picture on the top right, she writes on her LinkedIn page that Andy No is a Nazi bitch. Another thing she wrote was "Cry more, fascists, LOL," and another thing she put up was something about Ben West's gay husband or something. Ben West is a county commissioner who Katie Davis Court has done a bunch of interviews with during the case of this trial. So I'm going to call Portland State University today and let them know that she is at that school, because when I saw her say those things after the fact, then it's like, okay, you don't have any remorse, and that's the sentiment of these people. They don't care. So
they know what they're doing. It's an absolute intentional attack. And I think that all of, I look at all these people and they don't actually know how to communicate or actually be a normal human being. I'm kind of wondering if all of them need some actual mental health help.
I think they should be deported.
What's that? They
should be deported.
Yeah, she's actually from Central America, is it? I think she's. Yeah, it says on her profile page there that she's an immigrant. So it's I mean,
they hate America.
I've got a bulging disc pushing on a root nerve in my back, and when I walked away, I did call her a fucking bitch because she was being a bitch, and I'd had enough of it. And so that's what did it. That's what really made her mad, was that I had the audacity to do that, but I just was sick of it. So as I'm walking away, I think she tried to body tackle me with her shoulder into my lower back, and it felt like getting rear-ended in a car. My head shot back, my hips shot forward. I almost fell over, and I caught myself. And what you can't see in the video is I turn around. Looks like she's kind of getting up off the ground. Her purse is on the ground, and I step on her purse. And with my left hand, because I have my $4,000 camera in my other hand, I grab her relatively hard with my left hand, just instinctually. And then, I hear the cops coming, and I turn, and I'm like, uh-oh, am I in trouble? But they saw the whole thing, and so she's being charged with what is it again? Harassment and disorderly conduct in the second degree. Well, and hopefully assault battery once they see my video.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out here because there seems to be a pattern here, and we can always make good judgments on things based on pattern. Look, she shares resources for Palestinian militancy and rioting. I hate to say it. This is Azar. Natalia. Yeah. This is crazy, because when I see all of these people that are protesting Palestinians for Palestine and such, they're not right. First of all, they're just, they're not right in the head. First of all, but second of all, when you look at them under a flag of another country, there's a big problem there, huge. And I would be very surprised if all of these organizations, Antifa, the Palestinian protesters that are actual domestic threat on our soil, they're under a foreign flag. And we can go through the whole list of these people and say that I think that they're all operatives or planted or paid in some form. They're way too organized for people to have that much time on their hands.
They're definitely paid.
Definitely paid. Somebody's paying these people to show up and show up with their crazy hats on.
Well, and Donna, what's interesting is Natalia Gudvis here. She shows up to support Alyssa Azar, right? Alyssa Azar is she's Syrian. And
so she's not even an American either. Why the hell is she here?
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell are we
Natalia,
allowing people in the United States to create problems?
I mean, Casey.
Natalia Gudvis goes to Portland State University. On May 3rd, there was a protest or a riot at Portland State University Library, and Alyssa Azar was charged with trespass. Natalia wasn't charged. There's no charges really for her other than some parking tickets, but there's a huge tie there. So they are part and parcel.
Do you think that, when Trump was in office and all these riots were happening, they were obviously paid? They were trying to do an orange revolution or whatever you call that in the United States. And, I think that they must have cut off their funding and the Soros funding or whatever. And these are just like the people that are left over that actually just really bought into it. They're just, something's mentally wrong with them. And there's like a handful of them left.
They're like deep state toadies, It's like deep state toadies running around creating problems. I can't even have words for this on why these people are not deported or, why they haven't been deported. Send their sorry butts home. Why are we tolerating this crap?
We're tolerating it because our policy, the American people were set up for a war between people on our own soil. This was set up as a battle of systems and ideas. And in 1988, Gorbachev gave a speech at the UN, and you can listen to that speech and you can listen to his conditions that he set for basically taking down the Soviet Union and joining the world community. And part of one of the aspects of the agreement was de-ideologicalization of the nation state, which means that they took down our barriers of what it means to be an American, and they allowed our country to be flooded with all of these foreigners. And that's why we're fighting off at the ground level, people to people. People like these these Antifa groups and the Chinese buying our infrastructure, Saudi Arabia buying farms and, taking water. All of these things are due to what I would call a world war on the people to people. Rather than nation states fighting at a national level, they decided to let the people fight it out.
Well, it's like President Trump talked about them not sending us their best. I think once again, his genius is being shown true, because the people that they're sending here, I'm telling you, these are like deep state toadies. You watch those old movies and they're like, I don't know, doing every wrong thing you could possibly think of just to be, like bottom feeder level. You know what I mean? They're like bottom feeder level. I mean, even I hate to say it, but even look at their clothes all ripped up and such. What kind of an idiot moron goes into a court and wants to be taken seriously with holes in their shirts, holes in their jeans, other than just somebody who's completely disrespectful for anybody that was actually there for a serious reason that wasn't a deep state toady disruptor would go in there and present themselves in a professional way, not like this. I mean, you can make a lot of assumptions, and they're probably pretty good assumptions just by watching the content of these people. And I'm sorry, but
well, that's a statement in itself. because it is a people to people war. They set us up to fight for American ideology in the streets. But they didn't tell the American people that that's what they were doing. They have never told the American people that's what they did. And so, it's taken me 20 years to figure this out. But that's what it is. And people need to understand what happened at the international level at the time when the Berlin Wall came down forward, because they set us up.
Well, and a lot of things that we think are one way, we're going to have to question everything, because you look at Israel itself. It was set up by England, the Balfour Declaration. Why? What was the reason for this? These countries don't do things just to be nice guys. Okay,
right? Exactly.
Nobody when they get to that level, they're not like us. They're not like people that actually go to work. And I'm going to say it once again, that Gateway pundit did so much damage to me by calling me a billionaire. It will never be rectified, because I'm not. I work every day, right? And they did it. It was an intentional damage to myself. But the people that are at that level, they have no interest in doing anything just for a good reason. There's always something involved in it. Even if even if it looks like they're losing money, if they're losing money, I can guarantee you they're getting paid somewhere else. Sometimes they win by doing stuff like that. So do you want me to play this video, Casey?
What's that?
Do you want me to play this video?
Sure. This is County Commissioner Ben West. He's very relatively articulate guy. He wrote an article too about this trial and a message to Antifa about that they have to follow the law also.
Yeah,
and so
these Antifa losers are just like these ridiculous people that wore those, the pink hats and such. I'm not going to say the words for it, but the pink, because I'm offended by the whole thing. It's like, what kind of a loser runs around with a hat on that looks like genitals? I don't get this. I am so not understanding this. It's not even funny. So I think all of them need to have some psychiatric help.
Hi, my name is Ben West, Clackamas County Commissioner. Once again, I'm outside the Clackamas County Courthouse. Today was a big day because it was the sentencing for Alyssa Azar, a known ringleader for Antifa, who was just a few weeks ago found guilty on criminal riot felony charges. And today she had to face the court and figure out and learn what her sentencing was. So I promised all of you that I would follow this. And today I wasn't actually in the courtroom, but I did watch it very closely. The only political extreme group that showed up today was Antifa. They all showed up with face coverings, dark glasses on, and wearing keffiyehs, virtue signaling their political extremism and their allegiance to Hamas and Palestine. Why that was applicable, I don't know, but they're making it very clear who they are and the extreme values that they adhere to. The sentencing pretty much went on without a hitch. Right now, as we speak, Alyssa Azar is just up the road in the Clackamas County Jail. She'll be spending 14 days there. But that's not all. For 3 years, she'll have a GPS ankle bracelet monitor tracking her wherever she goes. If she violates her parole, she'll be swiftly sent to prison. So now she will be held accountable over a period of time for criminal felony acts. And so I just want to reiterate that that's what we do here in Clackamas County, is we enforce the rule of law. After the trial, though, this place was teeming with members of Antifa, all the people that packed into the courthouse, and they were upset. And one of those members was arrested also for attacking an independent journalist from out of state that was here in Oregon covering this trial. That person is now also with Alyssa Azar in jail, and it is my understanding that she will also face assault charges for her actions today. And so I just want to be very clear that Clackamas County, though we may share a 10-mile border with Multnomah County and very close to the city of Portland, we're all in the same metro area. You cannot act the fool here in Clackamas County. If you break the law, if you come and bring political violent extremism, if you try to make our community unsafe and unwelcoming to others just based on viewpoints, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And so I'm proud of the county. I'm proud of our ability to fight for a safe and livable space for everybody, no matter who they are. Now, listen, we've all over America, we have seen urban areas fall into decay and despair because local governments were incapable of doing its primary function, and that's keeping citizens safe. You know that your home and your area and your government is failing and falling apart, and is a fatal sign that they're not a healthy government if they can't do the simple task of keeping citizens safe. Well, in Clackamas County, we're committed to keeping you safe, and we will not allow this behavior here. And Antifa's antics aren't welcome, nor is any other political extreme group that wants to instill fear and intimidation and do those tactics here. We're not going to have it. So I just wanted to give you a final update on this case that we've been following very closely. Alyssa Azar is sentenced. She's in jail. She's on probation for 3 years with an ankle bracelet, just to recap. And her little comrade is up there in jail with her right now, too, for assaulting. That's 2 assaults from John Hacker. This other individual, I don't know her name. And now Alyssa Azar is a convicted felon and doing her time. So thank you for tuning in. And in Clackamas County, we believe in law enforcement. We believe in protecting people's rights. We believe in free speech. We believe in the rule of law. And we're going to keep standing for those principles. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Well said. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's great. He was a great asset. So Katie Davis Court would interview him on occasion during the trial, and I only caught like one of those, but he does a really great job. So it's really neat to see, and so we'll see what happens, I guess.
Well, and just even going on from here, I think this is a great discussion to have, because when you see people that can't live in peace and harmony with each other and only want to sit out there like children, that are throwing a temper tantrum because they want their way on whatever it is, they are not solving any problems. They are the problem. They are absolutely entirely the problem, because they refuse to work with people in a peaceful manner. I mean, I think that we can all agree with that, is that they can that we want to live at peace with our neighbors. We want to uphold each other's rights and such. But this is, you can't violate somebody else's rights just because you're ready to win under all circumstances. And I'm going to go back to these wearing genital things on your head and all of your body. Whoever thought that was a good idea? I mean, you want to talk about the village fools? That is the biggest statement to how much brainwashing that they have done to this nation to actually get people to wear genitals on their heads.
Yeah, it is crazy.
That's intentional to be maximally offensive. I watched
maximally stupid. They are the village idiots right there. You see somebody wearing, genitals on their heads or any of this stuff, immediately I go to, well, there's a village idiot right there. This has got to be the dumbest person I've looked at in my entire life. It's not like freedom of expression. They're wearing genitals on their heads. Maybe this is like the emperor with the emperor's new clothes. Maybe I'm just stating something that's like common sense. I don't know, but it's village idiots.
I agree.
I want to say really quickly that the Oregon City Police and the Clackamas County Sheriff's Department did a really good job. And when they were taking my statement, I didn't realize it initially, but I was speaking with the Oregon City captain of the police department, and so he wanted to ensure, asked me if I needed someone to follow me to my vehicle and make sure I could leave safely, and they went kind of out of their way. So that was really refreshing, and I think that they're going to be able to make sure that that area can stay safe from Antifa. But Portland's a completely different story. Like Andy No said, he said if that would have happened in Portland, the police would not that would not have been the response. But so I guess the neighboring areas can try to stand up against it at least.
Well, that's a really good point, because, there's so many issues or so many different efforts out there to back the blue and this, that, and the other thing. But any of these issues, I don't care what they are, things have been infiltrated. Our courts are infiltrated. Everything is infiltrated, and we got to start thinking and using our heads, not doing this village idiot stuff to grab a headline, no matter what it is. Because there's a gal that I know who was trafficked by the Grand Rapids cops, and she said, the first time that she was raped was 10 years old, and she was immediately put into a horrific trafficking situation. She said by the time she was 18, it was the cops that were passing her around. Now, I'm not saying that all cops are bad. I mean, the ones that were they're helping you, I feel really bad for them, and would absolutely defend them, and say something. In fact, I had a tenant years ago that they called the cops because of it was insanity. And I sat there and I said, you know what? You deserve to, you should apologize to these nice officers for wasting their time on things that is complete and utter nonsense. And, they have time that they could be out there actually addressing real crimes. And you two are sitting here like a couple of children arguing something that is absolutely a waste of everybody else's time because you refuse to act like an adult and handle your own problems. I don't get it, but it goes back to asking questions on everything and having the ability to make critical choices and baseline assessments of what's going on.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in going back in history to try to find where the problems start, because if you don't find where the problem started, then any solution you have is just going to compound the error. And we're living in a nation of compounding errors on everything. And it's because of that ideological battle on our own soil of people-to-people war. It's and it's there in history. You can read it. Because the politicians, they're not going to tell you about it. The leaders in your city, they're not going to tell you about it. You got to read it and understand it for yourself and then spread it with everybody that you know. The war is among peoples, and it's the peoples who have to understand the nature of the war. And so that's what we have to do.
How's your back, Casey? Are you doing any better? And which one of them hit you that damaged your back? Is this like a damage for your back for life situation?
Yeah, I have a bulging disc pushing on a root nerve. So it was Natalia. It's the gal that was trying to intimidate me. I don't know if she must have shoulder checked me or something, because it was pretty hard.
You should sue her for everything she could ever do in her entire life.
Well,
sue her into oblivion.
I mean, she just aggravated it basically. So I'm better today. Like the last couple days wasn't that fun, but it'll be fine. What a
monster these people are. They're like monsters. I mean, it's like looking at them going, we've got modern day monsters that are walking the streets that are willing to hurt other people. Unbelievable.
Yeah, she has anger issues, obviously.
That's a really nice way to say it. Call her out. She's a monster. She hit you, and it was an unprovoked attack. That's crazy. You're standing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she has 2 charges, and maybe there'll be another one. I mean, we'll just see what happens. I mean, she's only 26, so she did something stupid, and I mean,
we've all done that. Casey, I'm not even gonna allow that to stand without addressing. It's not because she was only 26. She's 26.
I know.
She's an adult. She freaking knew better.
Yeah.
And she did it intentionally to hurt, push, or violate your space.
Yeah,
that falls into the Donna Brandenburg piece of shit category. Okay.
Well, she's like my son's age, so I guess I'm just a little soft there, Well,
I guess I'm pretty much extra sure that your son doesn't fall into that Donna Brandenburg category.
No.
Because he actually has a parent that would probably have a discussion with him, I don't know. Yeah. And you know what? It's amazing. I've actually said that to a few people that I've run into that have done dumb things. And I'll face right off with them. I had some tenants that the neighbor had a mastectomy and they didn't even pay attention to them. And I got out there. They broke her fence. They did a bunch of things. And I went over there and I started talking to him, and I'm like, I'm not ashamed of you as a tenant. I'm ashamed of you as a human being, that you can't even see that your neighbor had her breast hacked off because you're like a little bunch of little boys peeing in the pool and having no conscience about what's going on around you. And I think there were tears by the time I got into the ass chewing for about 15 minutes. I seem to remember that. But my first thing is I can't believe what a bunch of loser parents you have that raised you, that to think that this was okay, and to be so narcissistic that you can't even see what's going on with a neighbor. Well, guess what? I persuaded them very nicely, not only to fix the neighbor's fence, but take care of her yard, do all of her snow removal for the next entire year. And it was wonderful. Said, we will get along just great, but you are in fact going to right the wrong of taking 3 months of this woman's life in pure hell while she was going through chemotherapy. And that might persuade me not to make a few calls to, I don't know, get you evicted from your college, amongst other things. It was beautiful. So that's advanced accountability. You can do that even without the courts involved. But unbelievable.
Don't mess with Donna Brandenburg.
Oh, I'm not going to screw with these people. It's like incredible. I mean, I've got, I ran out of the patience for this years ago. It's just unbelievable. I think I'm hoping that all of America has gotten to this point right now that we're willing to step up when we see something wrong and actually not back away from it. I mean, you've got to run right into the fire. You have to, and get a plan before you do it so that you don't fall on your face.
Yep, you absolutely do.
Anything else, Vicky, that you want to say about this? Because you've got just such an amazing amount of knowledge, and this whole Pantifa where they got their panties up their behind over nothing, and and something the other stuff that's going on. I mean, you've got a really unique perspective on this.
Yeah, well, that's because I was a computer systems analyst programmer. And you've got to go back to the source. What was the source? What caused the problem to start with? And then go from there. And so that's what I've spent all my time doing, is going back in history and trying to figure out what the heck was going on. When did it start? Why is it going on? And so if more people paid attention to that, then I think we could, get to a solution for our country. But until they understand the history, it's just going to be a continuing snowballing nightmare until we're actually all fighting in the streets.
Well, let's rename Antifa right now officially, because I think we should just do that. And we're going to start out by calling them domestic terrorists, and then deep state Biden-esque toadies. How's that? They've got a new name, Biden. They're Biden toadies, and that can go for the Palestinian protesters too. They're Biden toadies because they're being funded by the deep state, which is directly tied into the criminals in office. So There you go. Deep state toadies. I like that.
Yeah. Well,
brainwashed deep state.
It's taken a long time to even get recognition for the fact that they are domestic terrorists. For a long time, officials in Oregon, they denied there was an organization called Antifa. Such
Vicky,
thing.
there's a United Against Hate event in Moscow, Idaho on Monday, and we're trying to go to it. So I think that would be a good question to ask, because that's basically the U.S. District Attorney's Office of Idaho will be there. That's basically the DOJ. And a good question to ask them would be when will you classify Antifa as domestic terrorists?
Yeah, that question needs to be asked. And I mean, we can go right down the line too. BLM should be categorized as that. And not only that, because it's a corporation, but of course the deep state toadies wouldn't ever acknowledge that it's a corporation for money. And I mean, lots of money. It's well funded. So the BLM should have been designated as that the minute the first rock flew out of somebody's hand. It should have been done. Game over. you lose, sir, you know. But there's so many, you know. I don't know why Weather Underground wasn't designated as that.
Yeah, that's true.
I think ultimately they were, but I think that was after they had already done their damage, and a number of them were in jail already. So,
well, they just keep creeping back up again, because wasn't Acorn an outshoot of Weather Underground?
you might be right on that. I think Bill Ayers was involved with Acorn, right?
Yeah, and then they just keep like putting, these people are like masks. I mean, the first thing that you should see is a mask. And I mean, if you watched any Westerns at all, I'm trying to be funny right now, but you know what I mean? It's like bad guys always wear masks to hide their identities, right? Or their criminality, what they were doing, which I really think that the masks during COVID had a lot more to do with trafficking children and hiding identities so that they could grab more kids and whatever and get them out of the way, and nobody would be able to see or say anything. But you know, when they're still wearing masks like that in the courtroom, I think we got a big problem. This is not paranoia. This is intentional subversion to hide their identities and be able to creep around like the little cowardly rats they are, instead of standing up and doing the right thing. I mean, this is a coward move, and it's an intentional move.
I think the guy with the umbrella and the guy that was crying in the courtroom that basically drove the Prius that I filmed, all those Antifa getting out of, because the one lady is from Portland State University. I'm guessing that guy that was crying is also affiliated with Portland State University. I just have that I just feel like that. Like on his car, he had like a, I don't know. It just seems like he probably works there too. And so I'm starting to wonder how many of these Antifa people are directly involved in our education system.
Well, I'd say a whole lot of them, and it isn't too hard to pick that one up right there. And then C's got the rainbow umbrella too. You know, I know a lot of gay and lesbian people. I've got a lot of friends that are gay and lesbian. I don't shut the door on people. I talk to everyone. I'm sorry. I know some people it offends, and I'm going to tell you, I am a very solid Christian, but I don't just sit there and look at one sin and make it my talking point or whatever that people think. We have people, and there's not one of us that's got everything figured out, right? So we stand
hate
together.
The sin, not the sinner, and God loves everybody.
I'm gonna let God worry about their sin and whatever he's gonna deal with, and I stand with people, right? And it's just like, that's just the way. But I'm gonna tell you what, looking at this umbrella that this guy's wearing and this whole LGBTQRX, what the heck ever it is, nonsense that's out there. How is this not becoming something too that is a terrorist organization in a lot of regards? This isn't about acknowledging things. Every single person I know that's gay and lesbian hates all of this stuff that's out there in the public. They won't go to gay pride parades or anything like that. And they're embarrassed about this. And I mean, that's how all of my friends that are gay and lesbian look at it. They would never take part in this nonsense for any reason whatsoever, you know? But it seems like it's the same crowd that recycles through BLM that wants to go out and be social justice warriors, which are usually, you know, young, white, spoiled kids that are in the colleges that have had their brains carved out. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, that is who it is. You know, the privileged of, you know, the country in the colleges, because, and what they do is they organize the not privileged, you know, to stir up trouble. So.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Well, any last words, guys? I really appreciate you being on. I love you both so much. And Vicky's going to be on Monday morning at 9:00. I'm going to carve out time for Vicky because we have to go through your research that you've done. And it is some of the most impressive research. And I've been hanging out in the research communities. You know, I was in the Anon community for years before I came out publicly. And so, you know, I had to come out of the closet as an Anon. How's that? I'll use that right now. Punch it in somebody's faces, because I think it's absurd. The whole thing is absurd. And but at any rate, you know, being in the Anon community for many, many years, I am just blown away by the amount of research you've done and how organized it is. Usually you don't see those two traits together. And so Vicky's going to be on Monday at 9. And I think that we've been talking about having her on every single week because there's just so much information there that we need to be educated on, that I am committed to helping get that stuff out for you, Vicky. You're totally amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I it was almost like I was on a mission, you know. I had to figure this out, and so that we can solve it. But the problem is getting people to understand it. That's the problem.
Right.
Because it all occurred at the international level. And in our country, the news that, you know, there's very little about the international level and what the State Department is doing. So,
and people can follow Vicky's work at thetechnocratictyranny.com. That's thetechnocratictyranny.com. And her older website is channelingreality.com. Channelingreality.com. And you can follow me on X at Casey_Whalen, WHALEN, on Substack, CaseyWhalen.substack.com, and on Rumble, North Idaho Exposed. Thank you, Donna.
Well, I got to tell you what, both of you are just extraordinary. Casey, your ability to dig up stuff on the fly as you're covering these events is just incredible. And you don't go to the headlines. You go to actually, as an investigative reporter, to actually nail people with the truth, which is what honest media should be doing. I mean, that's the power of the press right there, is bringing the truth forward, not manipulating it as a crack for dummies and putting the headlines out there, you know, and that people want to grab onto and think they know all the issues. You know, true investigative journalism goes to the levels that you do. And I would encourage everyone to follow Casey, put his stuff out there, share it. He is a true patriot. He is a true journalist and really deserves everyone's attention. You know, go follow him on X at Casey Whalen or at Casey_Whalen. Go give him a follow and get some good stuff instead of the fake news crack that's out there. So you guys have a great day today. And we'll be seeing you next week. Do you think that you can get Ammon on next week?
I just had to, we have to plan it. He said, let me follow. I think the best thing to do would be to get him and Diego Rodriguez on, if I can talk, they rehash maybe like in a 2-hour segment, people's rights, go through what that is and where it's currently at, and some of these stories which you have probably no clue. A lot of people, I guess, in your area have no idea about, but they're very monumental. People's rights are a very monumental thing, and I think we need to have a chat about it.
We can go ahead and do that next week. I can give you 2 hours here or there, and absolutely, we'll figure something out whenever it's convenient. We'll figure something out on this, because you know, these stories of real people is probably one of the most important things that we're doing on BNN. It's not selling products. It's giving people who have had their voices taken away the ability to talk and actually put out what's happening on the ground, not the fake news crack headlines that are out there. So anyhow, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with J6ers Political Prisoners in America with Jalise Middleton and Troy Smocks. You know, I interviewed him before, Troy Smocks, and I was so impressed with him and the lawsuit that he crafted, that he really inspired me on. He was one of my inspirations for filing that latest pro se lawsuit, and I just want to thank him for that. And so we'll be right back. Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is the 13th day of September 2024. Welcome to our show today. We're going to get right into, I want to read one comment here so I can expand on my equal opportunity criticism of things that are not correct. Lev says, well, people better blow the dust off their Bibles and see that God also calls out not just homosexuality, but adultery, fornication, cheating on your taxes, lying, and all that sort of thing. So when you start pointing at somebody else's, what you think is the right to criticize everybody for what you see is going wrong, you kind of got to watch what Jesus said and said, you better look at yourself first and get the plank out of your own eye before you decide to make somebody else's pain in their life or whatever your personal vendetta. And with that said, welcome, guys. How you doing this morning?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm great. And Troy, I'm so glad to have you back on again. Your segment that you had in December, and I looked it back up, it was December 1 of 2023, was one of my favorite interviews that I still remember to this day. And just so you know, I in fact filed my a pro se suit a couple weeks ago, and it was you that really, you and several other people that were like you that have been fighting pro se that actually helped me learn the process and get the courage to also do that.
Good morning, Miss Jalise and Miss
Good
Donna. It's good to be back. Good morning, TV land, everybody out there. Go MAGA.
Yeah, this guy's amazing. You're absolutely right, Donna. I will jump right into it with you.
This is the rightful president of the United States. So I have toys on my desk, really. And so my one son prints these for me because we have a 3D printer. And so, yeah, there you go. And we've got the rightful president of the United States. Ding, 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 ding. President Donald J. Trump. Right there.
That's right.
That needs to get to work on that. That needs to happen, actually.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of that myself. It's like, and I always tell people, the right, and this is why this segment is so important for the J6ers political prisoners in America. When they attack one of us, they attack all of us. And we got to get past this nonsense, baby kindergarten playground crap of cult of personality. Oh, I like this person, but not this person. So I'll defend this person, but I won't defend this person because I just don't like them. That is so wrong. And I don't care if anybody likes or doesn't like President Trump. Could care less. It's immaterial. That's a failed baseline analysis. He is an American first before president. He is a president of the United States of America. He is the rightful president of the United States of America. And if you are an American, you will defend the American process of each of us being absolutely equal on that one moment and that one day a year that we're supposed to be casting our vote for president and the people that run this nation. And it doesn't matter anything outside of that, other than that we're not illegal aliens. We're actually citizens here that stand as one American family apart from anything else that was created to divide us. And more importantly than that, if you're thinking about it, because we're all children of God, we stand here together in the kingdom of God, in his kingdom, as service in service to each other for the privilege of doing good works. That is the reward.
The privilege. I love that. Because he don't need us. I get so frustrated when I hear people, I don't know if I should do this. I'm feeling No. He don't need you. He just offered you an opportunity.
Amen. Since we're speaking on that, God doesn't go to a palace to find his kings. He never has. He always go to the dust ashes to take the throwaways to make them great men. And God, when he shows up, he doesn't twist your arm and say, hey, I want you to do this. He gives you the opportunity, kind of whispers it. And either you're gonna rise to the occasion or you're gonna say no.
And it's about laying that at his feet, because it has little or nothing about us doing that task. It's sort of like when mom and dad decide that they're going to make cookies with a little kid. And mom and dad can do this all alone. Okay. Mom and dad can make the cookies. They can bake the cookies. They can mix the cookies. They can package the cookies. They don't need you when you're about 5 years old. Right. But they give you things, okay, measure out the sugar, and you measure the sugar out and you're like, oh, you did such a great job, honey. And they put it in the mixer and he's happy that we've learned something new. Well, it's kind of like that with God's, with God's giving us the ability to participate in good works. He doesn't need any of us because he can pretty much get the job done sans every single person on the planet.
I look at it as, heaven's a great place. And, even if you go to the movies, you got to pay for your ticket. So he makes your good deeds down here. You're paying for your ticket.
I think he paid for our ticket because we can't even do that. He sent Jesus to pay for our ticket to heaven right there. And then he watches us as if we're mixing up these cookies, and spilling the sugar all over the place. And he's like, oh, aren't they cute? They're kind of cute. It's kind of a disaster, but I still love them. And each time we get a little bit better at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he says a lot of people are not going to be able to go to the show, though. He says that doorway is quite small, so everybody's not get their ticket paid for.
That's right.
You might have to put a few of us in time out for a while. Maybe, hopefully not forever, but the possibility is real.
Yeah, well, I bought my ticket on layaway. You remember the old layaway system? I bought mine on layaway.
I do.
Well, it's great. It's great to be with ladies. I'm in good company.
I'm so happy you came in here.
I can't wait to meet you someday. In my opinion, you are like one of the all-time greats out there figuring out how to do this lawsuit. And every time I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, he was like way, way into go big or go home. You didn't say, okay, I'm going to have you guys do this. No. It's like slapped him right across the face with a serious lawsuit. I mean, this is like a dad on steroids to to holding accountable. It's like, yeah, you just like in your face, shoved it right in their faces. And we're like, we will not be doing this anymore. And all of a sudden, what is it? $250 million you sued him for?
No, $2.5 billion.
2.5 billion?
Yeah, would it be? Yeah.
I am going to tell you right now, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader that you would win this case, because I have complete and utter faith that you're going to take that money and do wonderful things for other people because it's in your heart to do good things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's for all of us, because
I would trust you before I trust anybody in there sitting in the seats. I'm going to tell you that right there.
Well,
I got to correct you on a couple of things there, Donna. First off, he didn't have to figure it out. The guy is sharp as a tack. I think he's got a gifting, and he's highly, highly, highly intelligent to the point it intimidates me. And he knows it.
Well, that's a great thing. It's like I always say, I want to be the dumbest person in the room, which isn't too hard to beat. But it's like, it's great when you get people who are smarter than you are. Gives you a little leeway for behavior, and you can sit back and go, Troy.
When I first heard about his writ of habeas corpus, my heart sunk. Like, I have been in this to win it. I have been a fighter from day one, but there's still that piece of me like, ooh, you just went a little too far. And when he did that, I'm like, oh, dang, I got to separate myself. Like, this is bad. But what I'm so impressed by, because he isn't cowering down, and that's how we all should be. There should not be, even if we know our position in Christ, there should not even be a hint of intimidation.
Right. No fear.
Oh,
guys, I gotta stop you 1 second, because I've got an appointment I gotta go to, and I know that you guys are absolutely able to carry this on to the end. And I love this, being able to pass the ball to Jalise. And you have a wonderful day today, and we'll be talking soon. And then I just wish you every favor that God can give you in your case and in in your efforts going forward, Troy. I really appreciate everything you're doing. And with that said, please say a prayer at the end. Please include Casey Whalen. And he had that crazy Antifa lunatic that hit him and hurt his back. And these abusers that need to be not only designated as domestic terrorists, but have their sorry butts shipped back from where they came from. And but at any rate, please say a prayer for Casey and before you leave today, because Jalise will be our prayer today. And have a great day and have a wonderful weekend. And that's to everybody out there. I'll do the quick Donna Brandenburg act. Please go to brandenburgforgovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And I would love to have a discussion with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, discussing this. And love you all. God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. And it goes to Jalise now and Troy.
All right. Hey, Miss Jalise.
Oh, that's awesome, Troy. I do, before we jump too far in, I want to give the viewers some updates. I had two different things occur that since I had these people on the show, I want to update you on things that occurred. So if you recall, I had Brandy Bowen on the show. She's the one y'all saw sitting out by the pool. And right after her interview, she went to Washington, D.C. with her attorney on behalf of her husband to go to the Marjorie Taylor Greene congressional hearing. And for punishment for her going to that and speaking out, our DC CTF, which we call the DC Gulag, decided to punish her husband by moving him for absolutely no reason, because he's got to be back in DC within the next 2 weeks for a hearing. And they just up in the middle of the night picked him up and moved him to FDC Philadelphia. So if you would, please keep her and her husband in prayer, along with this tyrannical regime that is holding our January 6th defendants hostage. I also want to update you on Deborah Sandoval. She's the one that we kept having link failures, and she couldn't get on for some time. And she is, while she was in prison, made friends with Audrey Southard, which is another January 6th defendant. And here is what Audrey had to say. We wanted her to get her voice out. And so I'm going to quickly read her update. I was performing my life's work. She's talking about before January 6th. I was performing my life's work, teaching voice and singing. My life was quiet except when on stage or at a street rally. January 6th was, quote, wild. I got caught up in the moment and the energy. The rest is history. I'm right now waiting for the 1512 charge to drop off and resentencing, which will hopefully put me out the door this year. If not, I'm expecting to be pardoned by Trump on day one. I hope to return to teaching voice and singing, God willing. Since coming here, I have been reading the Holy Bible, prayer books, and doing Bible studies. I finished the 12-book series of Left Behind and discovered my enjoyment of Bible fiction stories by Francine Rivers and Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. And an American Survivalist series, which I fear will be more reality than fiction here soon, is a real favorite. Being here has brought me face to face with my faults. I have a lot of epiphanies, and I feel my love for Christ growing every day. I have a long way to go in my walk with Jesus, but I've made the first steps. I plan on becoming very active in my local church, singing and missionary work. Before coming here, I didn't feel comfortable being around a few women, let alone crowds of women. Now I can halfway tolerate them. LOL, just kidding, but I know she's not, because I'm the same way. There are very talented and ingenuous women in here suffering, and they deserve to be judged fairly. The injustice system has failed this society miserably. I didn't think I could sit and do the same boring, tedious job 8 hours a day, but I can. I still don't like it. I was distracted with my phone addiction and trying to control my environment. Here, there is no consistency, even though I'm in a cage. I just give it to God and go with the flow. I plan on continuing this. Cause tomorrow is now promised, and is worrying about it is futile. God has the plan. We just have to pay attention to the signs. Blessings, Audrey. And I just thought that was a beautiful update on her. The prison that she's been in has been very violent. There has been murders in there. The prison system itself has no problem putting men in there with men genitalia that just claim they relate as a woman and then are doing sexual acts in front of these women that they're in a cell with. So it has been a very volatile situation. So please keep her in your prayer. And on that note, back to the star of the day, which is Troy Smocks. Troy, you are one of our earliest guys that went into the DC Gulag, and you were not even there January 6th. So your story is super intriguing. So I'm just going to throw it in your hands and let you take off, because you're more intelligent than I am. Your view of things is very different than mine, and I love hearing them. And I think it's important for the people to hear from you. So let her rip.
Well, I remember when I first met you and Mark, and I remember that first event that we spoke at, and I was like, "Oh, she is the sweetest thing. Boy, she's sweeter than honey. Give you a cavity."
I can be sour too. My kids say I'm like a Sour Patch Kid. The candy, first it's sweet and then it's really sour.
Yes, but I will say this. We find ourselves today as we're almost 4 years ago, same position, and on January 6th, the government did not pick a fight with, the January 6ers. The government picked a fight with America. And
That's
they were
profound
so.
right there. If only we could get that through to the American people. Everyone's still wanting to look at what we did that day. Well, first off, be careful what using that word "we," because that's what got me convicted. Because I use "we" statements all the time, whether it was referring to me and my husband or me with the Patriots or whatever, and they conveniently twisted that to fit their agenda, of course.
Yeah,
And
them
they,
them they, they are, and they,
and the fact is, they are connected with us. We were not there doing anything wrong. Now, did things go awry? Yeah, they did. But thanks to agitators and human instinct, they literally used our human instinct against us. So you're right
yeah,
about that.
yeah. They picked that fight. They picked fight with America, and they were appalled that Americans would fight back.
Yeah.
Because remember, prior to that, you had the 9/11. Well, no, I'm sorry, you had the COVID, and that was the first test. Oh, let's see if they will wear masks. If they will wear masks, then they will comply. And
Yep.
then the second step was that they stole the election. And then the next step, well, okay, yeah, we stole it. What we're gonna do? We're gonna smack you in the face too, because they started the attack, just like they're doing now with Donald Trump. They're saying, oh, if he's elected, we're going to have to leave the country. He's going to come after us. Well, why shouldn't he? You came after him. You started it. When I grew up in a time where they say, you know what? If you pass a lick, you take a lick. And these are the mentality is that, well, we get a trophy for showing up. We don't have to do the work, but we get paid, and we can do whatever we want to you, but you can't do it back to us.
That's
Well,
right.
there's
And
a
that
distinct.
starts from the very beginning. Look at when the FBI raided you. I don't know what your raid looked like, but I know what mine looked like. I couldn't lie to them, but they could lie through the teeth to me right off the start.
Yeah, it was it's don't do to us, but we're gonna do to you. And I have them in a pinch right now because you can't do that to me. You can't do that to us. And what a lot of people don't understand is that, yeah, I'm suing the federal government, but I'm not suing it for me. I'm suing it for us because there's a lot of people, they will slander you, which they did me, and I'm still going through that to get it, straightened
I
out.
want to touch on that, and I hope I don't put you on the spot, but I'm such a straight shooter, I have to. Troy, you know, because I was probably honest and told you, because that's just how I roll. I really didn't know how to take you. I did not have a category for you. Your intelligence was so high. I'm like, this guy's a fed, okay? And then I realized, no, he's not. And you know, unfortunately, us J6ers get traumatized through this. And if we don't take our thoughts captive, as the word tells us to, we end up spinning our brain into mental illness by thinking everyone's a fed, everyone's stalking us, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, I was able to take that thought captive early. However, I still didn't know how to take you, because you are a lone wolf. You do not have to be in the fold to make things happen. You research on your own. You're a get her done guy, and you're outrageously intelligent. So if you ever felt that hint of, I don't know what her deal is, but the awkwardness has been from me not knowing how to take you. So I just want to own that and tell you that.
It's no worry to that. Actually, I was looking for something to see if I could show you here. I have to go into my secure file.
Because the
But
government did something very different to you than they did a lot of J6ers, probably because of the way your case was. Because you weren't there January 6th, they picked you up on different charges, and you were one of the first ones. So they had maybe different tools in their tool belt that they were using against people. But one of them, they annihilated all of our character. And I talk about that all the time through media blasting us. But they actually went after you in a very deep personal level, didn't they?
yeah, they actually did. That's because I'm when you're looking for it, you can never find it. But it's crazy. But as you know, they the first thing that they did, they tried to get me killed because they threw, I was they threw me in there with what they claimed were all white supremacists. Now
Oh,
what
yeah, and the
happens?
deep gulag.
Yeah. So what happens when you throw a chicken in a pond with hungry alligators?
Right.
They yeah.
And
And
this was early before the truth had come out. So it was
mhm,
their narrative and their narrative alone. And then, just so the listeners understand, they will hire, people from Nigeria that
mhm,
are over here to work in the prison system. And they tell them that these are white supremacists that hate you, that if they're left alone with you, are going to kill you. And then they leave these guards alone with these January 6th defendants. And it worked
yes.
for probably the first year, didn't it?
Yes. And like uh Martin Taylor Green, when they came to DC, we were all there in orange when they came into C2B to see us. I'm there. I'm looking black and orange. I'm looking like Hornet. And I spoke to her. She could have put an end to this, right after they left, to say, you know what, Joe Biden, you're lying again. You're claiming these guys are white supremacists. Why is this black guy in there with them? What are you trying
Along
to
with
do?
it, Enrique Tarrio,
Yeah,
he was there.
exactly,
He's
exactly.
Hispanic
Yeah, but
or Puerto Rican, I think.
yeah, she was actually getting free press by, and now that she got a reelection, hear from her just like Julie Kelly, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
showboating.
yeah, and you have so many of these people, and I made a promise to the guys when I left there. I said I will not leave you behind, you know. And then the federal government, they knew they were lying, but they put out this stolen valor deal on me where and they knew, and when it's all over, there's everything that they had to return to me. Still, I still keep it in the evidence. You can see there's my DD 214. Yeah, you see it.
Yes, because this was one of the first conversations you and I
Yeah,
had, and that's what red
yeah,
flagged me, is that you were a pilot. My husband's a pilot,
yes. Hmm.
and you were in the military, and yet they're claiming you weren't. And I looked at it very skeptically. Of course, it's early on after my arrest, and I'm like, I don't know about this guy. Well, so they actually did that and then returned the evidence. So let the viewers understand clearly. They told the world that he had all these alias names, that he was stealing valor, claiming to be in the military, even though he wasn't, and claiming he was a pilot, even though he wasn't, and things like that. Now, you set the story straight. I just laid it on the line what they were telling the public.
Yes, they did. And let's see if I'm going to kind of move the camera over. Let's see if I can swivel it here. You'll see there's military. There's my discharge papers and everything I keep. There's things on the wall, everything. Everything had to be returned to me because, yeah, they were lying. They did the same thing to me as they did to General Flynn and to Trump. They did the exact same thing. Except, one thing that I don't get credit for, I am the poster boy in this country for First Amendment protected speech because that's what they came after me over. I was the one that said, I was the black guy saying, you know what, Trump's a good man. He's a great president, and everything. And as you see with the battle of the races, that's one thing that they could not afford to happen.
A black man willing to promote Trump.
Yes. And
you
as
were
you see,
screwing up their narrative big time.
Exactly, because what's happening today, they didn't want to happen. They didn't want the narrative to take off back then. Right now, they're so afraid, oh, we got to get the black vote, that they have Kamala installed in, this whole buffoonery that's going on because, they knew after the Obama, well, after the Hillary Clinton craziness, if you don't have the black vote behind you, you're not going to win.
Right.
So they attacked me, to kind of keep it down.
And now more and more, especially this election, I'm seeing it. So I'll let you speak on it because, as you see, I'm white as snow. But I need your opinion. So it looks like the black community is really turning around. They're really looking at what has been happening all along. Is that just my imagination?
No, that's not. And I said this some time ago. The narrative was if Trump were to get 12% of the black vote, that he would slam the doors on the Democrats. And now it's charting where he's somewhere up. They're not going to tell you the truth. It's somewhere up in like 48, 49% of the black votes. In due in part, as you know, I had started in July, I started broadcasting Trump ads.
I did hear some of those. You did send me those. Do you have one you can play?
Yeah, actually, let's see here.
I might have it too. I'll look as quick as you do and see which one of us gets to it first. Because I was intrigued by this. Okay, and what are you doing with these ads?
Well, there's one radio station in the whole country that has agreed they're black too, and they're not owned by the mainstream medias. And we're the only radio station in the country that will play Trump ads, but this does cost money. And so from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, they run Trump ads on the 17 and the 47-minute mark. And these are ads that I paid to produce. I'm I'm bartering to get them aired. I'm doing some of their legal work and stuff, and they're, because the DOJ, they stripped us of all of our money.
That's right.
Yeah, right now I have red notices now where I'm trying to get bills paid before things. But
and it just keeps getting harder on us. I don't know how much longer the J6ers will hold on. I'm running a nonprofit and we're absolutely dead broke. And every time we get a request, I just want to crawl under a rock and die. And I have to remember that, no, I've got to stand in the fight and I've got to pray for these people. And the Lord's going to be the provider of it. I mean, he has been for me and Mark all along. I trust that he called me to American Patriot Relief and he'll be the provider for that too. But I'm telling you, it's been a rough road to hoe.
Yes. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but here's one of the ads. This ad was done in June. And because of this ad, Google created a similar ad for Kamala Harris. I sent you. I remember I sent that to you. Yeah, because I get real creative, and I said, I'm going to let everybody tell the story. Let even Alexa know that he's going to win the election. And
Right.
yeah, so it was an Alexa ad that prompted Google to do the same thing in real time for Kamala Harris, and then they got in trouble for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and let's see here. That ad was
Alexa, who is Donald J. Trump?
Donald John Trump, 1946, at Jamaica Queens Hospital in New York City, New York, became the 45th President of the United States. His attempt at re-election in 2020 was derailed by a shadow group of non-elected high-position government officials known as the Deep State. In the year 2024, Donald John Trump returned to power as the 47th President of the United States and only the second presidential candidate in U.S. history to achieve this goal. Donald John Trump defeated his incumbent Democrat rival Joseph R. Biden in the 2024 election by a landslide margin, due in part to Trump's quest to again make America a great nation and a beacon of light to the world.
On November 5th, 2024, be a part of history and vote Donald J. Trump for president.
This ad is produced and sponsored by We People for Donald J. Trump.
and that was just one. I'll play one more for you guys. Let's see
Try
here.
to hold it more toward the computer speaker down low.
Okay. Toward the computer speaker. Okay.
Why should we give credibility to a criminal justice system that we realize is completely broken, corrupt, and biased?
On November 5th, 2024, vote Donald J. Trump for president, and let's give a collective middle finger to corruption. Together, let's make America great again.
This ad is sponsored and paid for by We the People for Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, and that's just two. We have a total of 6 ads that run continuously, and but
So-
nobody helps. Nobody helps.
No, I was fixing to say, like, you are such a lone ranger out there doing this stuff. I'm blown. And what I mean by that, just to help viewers understand a little bit, the January 6th defendants are pretty tight knit. We're all in communication and back channels. We try to help each other out, and everybody's got their way of trying to help in the community. Some try to get donors for commissary. Some, like American Patriot Relief is one of them, Stop Hate, Condemned USA. You got all these different groups, and some of them work together better than others. But at the end of the day, we're all in communication with each other and trying to help each other. Now, with that said, there's 1,500 January 6th defendants, and I would venture to say there's about 300 that are communicating and working together to help each other out. And then there's Troy. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way, but this guy is just working at a high level. I don't know how else to put it, but every now and then, American Patriot Relief will check in on Troy, or he'll check in on us, and we're like, he is way out there. He's way up. He's getting stuff done. He don't play around with trying to build a team and, gee, so-and-so didn't do what they said they're going to do. Now it's going to be delayed another month. He don't jack with that. He's like, just get the hell out of the way. I got stuff to do. And that's really what you're doing.
Yeah, I didn't want the fight with the government, but hey, you picked it, and you wanted to brawl, so let's brawl, and it hurts me so much, because there's a difference between MAGA and Republicans. Yes,
there is. So I'm going to touch on that real quick, because there was actually a situation in Dallas, Texas last night. The Dallas GOP held an event called the Rawhide Roundup. And anyway, great event they had scheduled out there. But anybody out of Texas knows that Austin, Dallas, Houston, these are all blue cities that should be red. It's fraudulent Democrats that ran on a Republican ticket. We now call them rhinos. run that city. And the Republicans in Dallas are very wealthy people that they want to elbow bump and stay with the elites and ride the fence and not take a stand on anything. And they got in there, and American Patriot Relief was invited to it. We felt so honored to be there. Lectern guy, the guy that carried the lectern at the Capitol on January 6th, being funny, good-natured guy, decided to go to the event, and he got shunned there. And so did American Patriot Relief, by the way. We got stuck out in the lobby. We did not get invited into the event. And anyway, because of this, what they failed to understand is Lectern guy has 72,000 followers. Alex Stein, that invited him and also got shunned, has like 102,000 followers. Needless to say, Dallas GOP got absolutely hammered for not standing firm in support of the January 6th defendants. And they do that because they're cowering away from anything that's controversial. And you got your own fight going with that. So just so the American people know, this is still a common occurrence. And honestly, January 6th defendants are getting very over it.
Yeah, we are, and what a lot of people don't understand, that 1512, I drafted that for Steve Metcalf.
Oh, really?
That's right. That's right. Yes, right. I drafted that for Jake Lang. Yes.
So the Fisher case that went before the Supreme Court to overturn the 1512 was drafted by you.
Yeah. Well, Fisher came after us because Steve filed his first. We got our dismissal first, but because Fisher, he was represented by a bigger law firm. Steve Metcalf was only a law firm. The Supreme Court appointed the Fisher case so that they could take the lead because they were the bigger law firm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it came, the whole concept came from, and that's because of a document that the DOJ, we got a copy of the document. It was actually the memorandum from Bill Barr on the 1512 that they first tried to use against Donald Trump. And he told them, no, it's not used for that. It's completely not used for that. And you're going to really screw up, he barred the Justice Department from doing this. Now, the importance of that is once this memorandum by the Attorney General was issued, it was like statutory law for the Justice Department until another Attorney General came in and wrote a superseding memorandum. Well, they never did that. And the Supreme Court agreed with us. You had 900,000 lawyers up there, I want to say 11 lawyers, all running into court, attacking it, and they had no idea what they were doing. And so, Steve Metcalf and I, which was Jake Lang's attorney, we talk all the time, and he's a good guy,
He is.
And,
I met him personally over Isaac Thomas's case.
yes.
I was in DC for my trial, and he picked up Isaac's case and got him out of the DC gulag. And I have great respect for him. He's a very unique individual, and he don't mess around. I mean, even in talking to him, you can tell this guy's on it, and he don't want to chit chat about the weather. He don't want to jack around. He's in there to get these J6ers out of prison and get our country back where it needs to be.
Yes, and he and I, we work very, very well together, and we would call each other and bounce stuff off of each other, and he said, I want you to take a look at something and tell me what you think. He sent me the files. I took a look at it. I said, hey, here's our argument, and this is where they screwed up. And he said, okay, write it up and send it to me. I wrote it up and sent it to him. He made a few tweaks on it, filed it, boom, we got the dismissed. And then
I want you to know then that you were involved in my charges going down from 9 to going to 8. That was one of my felonies. So thank you.
And you're welcome. And it's like it from my standpoint, it's like a lot of the guys, they've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And nobody, Patriot Relief helped me out once. Nobody has helped me with anything.
You're right.
And I fight for everybody. I mean, for everybody. it's crazy. Before all this happened, like I said, I was in aviation. I made very, very good money. After this, my clearance was pulled. I lost my job, and everything else. Then they put you on the terrorist watch list. You got quad 4, clearance to fly and all that kind of stuff. And I'm fighting them and I'm winning, by the way. The U.S. attorneys, they didn't know what a federal enclave was.
What is it?
Okay, everyone knows that D.C. is 10 miles square, right? And that's the seat of the federal government. And that's the federal government, the corporation United States. That's a little country. Anything else like your local federal building or your post office or your military reservation, these are like little embassies. And when you're on those embassies, the federal government has the same power as they do in DC. These are called federal enclaves.
That's
But before, yes. Now, as long as you're on one of those federal enclaves, they have all the power in the world. Going. But as soon as they leave that enclave, they have no power. They have no more power. That's right. They are nothing. And that's what my suit is all about. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. We're the federal government. Yeah, right. You are the federal government and you have this much power.
And so with that much power and absolutely no authority, they showed up on our property raiding us. That's correct.
That's right. That's right. And each one of them, we have these sheriffs, and the sheriffs are brainwashed like most people into believing the federal government is the end all be all, but the law don't support that. No. And this is why they're getting the hell suit out of them. And they had the audacity to say that he's suing us for $2.5 billion. And I came back and said, yeah, you're the one that said this is the biggest criminal case in U.S. history. The bigger the headache, the bigger the pill, right? So
you're right. You're absolutely right. So obviously that is an independent lawsuit. It's not a, what do they call that, class action, which I'm not a fan of for January 6th defendants, because we don't deserve to settle for just peanuts on the dollar. Every single one of us need to independently be filing these lawsuits.
Yeah, and there's a flip side of that coin. One, you can't sue the government in a class action lawsuit because you're into 11th Amendment immunity. But when you sue them under the Federal Tort Claims Act, you have 2 years from the time of the claim to actually start the process. But under the Federal Tort Claims Act, the federal government has already waived their jurisdiction. So
what does that mean?
You can't, like, if you were to try to sue the federal government under Civil Rights Act or something like that, they have sovereign immunity from that. And you can't sue them unless they say, okay, it's okay for you to sue me. But under the Federal Tort Claims Act, they've already said it's okay for you to sue me. Okay. And so that's what I did. I sued them under the Federal Tort Claims Act, and now their panties are in a bunch because I'm winning.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot riding on that. So what do you see the future of that being? How do you think that'll play out?
Well, I think the smart thing is they're going to try to settle it, because if they settle it, then it could be settled under a non-disclosure. But if it goes to court, then our attorney general is going to have to weigh in it, because I'm standing out here as a citizen defending the sovereignty of Texas. Why the attorney general?
So is it the Texas AG? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, yes, the Texas
Ken
AG.
Paxton?
Yeah, he's going to have to weigh in on that.
It's got a dozen or more lawsuits going against the federal government right now.
Yeah, and it's the duty of his office to protect the sovereignty of the state. And when you have the federal government filing in court papers, and under the illusion that the whole state of Texas is a federal enclave, like it's been nationalized, then his job is to step in there and say, back up, partner, And so far, Ken Paxton's been a coward. I'm just going to put it out there.
Really? You do feel that way? Why do you say that?
I do, because there's several things that that he should have stepped up to the plate and stopped the federal government. See, when all of the J6ers were arrested here in Texas under Texas statutory law, and the extradition processes, the federal government had to go through through our governor, and then through from the governor into Kim Paxton's office, which is the attorney general, and then Kim Paxton he dispatches the complaints and the warrant out to the local sheriffs, and then
Now,
the
I want to
sheriffs.
interrupt real quick. I want the viewers to understand Texas has the second largest amount of January 6th defendants in it of everybody in the country. The leader is actually Florida. And so to date, now I didn't look it up today, but within the past 2 months, Texas was up to 105 January 6th defendants in the state. So that means 105 times they signed off on us being picked up, even though they can look just as easily as the next guy that we had no criminal record. They now know the truth. They know the BS narrative that's being fed, and they still signed off on it. So continue on.
Well, here's the thing. The state of Texas didn't sign off on anything. The federal government just did it. And you know, yeah, these are statutory laws. So the state doesn't have the authority to sign off on anything because it's not in the statutory laws. The statutory laws is actually adverse to everything. And the Supreme Court has decided this a long time ago, that the arrest of a person, even under a federal warrant, is controlled by the laws of the state where the arrest took place.
That's correct.
Law.
The government is subservient to the state.
That's right. That's right. And under Texas law, the federal government has no authority to do anything. They only have as much authority as the common citizen making a citizen's arrest. If they see a felony being committed in their presence, and that felony is against the state, then they can arrest you, search you, seize anything that you have on you, and then call the local law enforcement to come and get you. And that local law enforcement is going to take anything that was on you as though they seized it from you themselves. And that's it. They have under 2.122, it gives a long list of all the federal agencies that are not peace officers and don't have any power.
That's right. Now, my husband looked into this. You know, Mark. He ran for office as a January 6th defendant, which really ticked off the federal government, which is why our sentencing is looking so high, along with us refusing to go quiet while I'm sitting here on home confinement. So with that, what he found in researching the Texas law is that there's actually like an immunity clause for the FBI, that they are given a peace officer clearance to work within the state of Texas. And he's actually actively working to shut that down. There has now been a bill written. I believe that came from Andy Hopper that just took office, or he's actively working on it to put a stop on that. Right now, that's how they're getting on Texas soil on private property, doing what they're doing. Do you know anything about that?
No, I've gone through, all the discovery with them, and putting them on this. And see the problem is the Constitution. Any kind of bill or that will be contrary to the Constitution.
Which is almost everything we have now.
Yeah. And they're trying hard to get around that, but they can't. Under the enclave law, I just got a letter from I got a letter from Ken Paxton's office, and it was written to his prosecutors, and he's telling them the same thing under that I'm telling you under 2.122. They have no power in the state except on those enclaves. And I hit them with that, and they lost their minds. So, and now what happens is, once a January 6th or anyone's arrested by the federal government, they're supposed to be arrested by local law enforcement, taken to the state magistrate for extradition proceedings to the United States. And yeah, they have kind of, no, we're just going to take you right from here and take you into one of our embassies and then put you on an embassy airplane and ship you to our country.
Now, how many times did that happen in Texas for J6ers? Because I've been asking around. And what I've discovered is most of them were just like me, where they put us in prison overnight. We went to arraignment hearing and then they sent us home. Then we had a Zoom call with DC for with the magistrate and the rest of our hearings, which they're saying means you basically extradited by willingness. You were willful. By choice.
No, because you still have a due process in law under the law, and you can't kidnap someone and claim that it was willing.
Right.
The process started with the state. No matter what they say, it's gonna stay the same. That dog don't hunt anywhere else. It starts with that state magistrate, because that state magistrate has the power to tell you, okay, until the governor signs this extradition warrant to the United States, I'm going to put you out on bond under habeas corpus, and then you come back 10 days later, and if the governor says he's not going to let you go back home. If the governor says, he's going to sign the warrant, then I got to send you to them. That's how the process starts, and the federal government can't do anything about that.
Wow. See, I'm telling you, people, you're seeing it for yourself. As my brain's blowing, yours probably is too. Troy, you're just absolutely such a wealth of information. And that's why I have to take it in little bites, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to chew on this, because, I definitely want my pound of flesh, but I'm very cautious in taking that before the Lord, because he says vengeance is his. But I'm going to tell you, there's been 3 times in my life that I should have sued people that I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I've actually regretted it, because I knew the wrongdoing done. And one was life altering for my husband, and he's got to live with it the rest of his life because of that. I'm not willing to do that this time. Now, I'm not saying I'm not giving that to the Lord. I'm not feeling nothing coming from the Lord telling me I can't do that and him have his vengeance. Okay.
Well, Ms. Jalise, I am very spiritual. I used to be religious, but the churches have kind of waned me away from that. But I believe in God with all my heart. And, God said, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, but what don't belong to Caesar don't belong to Caesar. And what they took from you illegally, you deserve compensation on that.
So that's a really good point, because I want to touch on that too. Being a strong believer, always involved in the church community, I have heard so many people tell me that you're to submit to your government and you shouldn't have been there. Well, let me educate you, homie. Okay, let me educate everybody in the audience. And you already know this, Troy, but we are not governed by a man, and our Constitution is our government. These government officials in place are in place to uphold the Constitution. So no, I am not subject to the government. I am subject to the Constitution, which they're not upholding. Therefore, we are not to subject ourselves to them, because anything out of alignment with God is out of alignment with God, and we're still called to obey the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. Amen. So let me clarify for all the Christians out there that can't get it straight in their little head. If you knew the Constitution and you knew your Lord Jesus Christ, and for women, we should know it way before the men, because we're called to be under the authority of our husband, as long as he's aligned with God. But if he gets misaligned, we're to stay right in authority with God and let him do all his wondering and warring with God over it, because he's called to account for it. So we already knew this. And I want to make sure, I don't mean to get on a soapbox and take up any of your time, but I want to make sure the American people understand that we are governed by a Constitution. And that Constitution refers to our inalienable rights that comes from God. So thank you. I hope that was an education for all of you. And now I'll pass the ball back to
the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Federal law is not the supreme law of the land. The supremacy clause only applies if the state law conflicts with the federal law. As long as they don't conflict, and the federal law has to be in alliance with the Constitution. So if what the federal government's doing is outside the realm of the Constitution, then it's null and void.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. And the majority of people, they don't realize that we don't live under a democracy.
Thank you. I hear it. My husband used to ride me about saying it, and I used to say, "It don't matter. It don't matter. You're splitting hairs." Oh, it does matter, and I get it.
It really does. It really does. There's 5,543 words in the United States Constitution. I challenge anybody to find the word democracy. They're not going to be able to do that. We are a constitutional republic.
The difference? Because most of her viewers probably know, but just to have it on the record, what is the difference between a republic, a constitutional republic, and a democracy?
Okay, I'm going to break it down to you so a third grader will learn it, because since they canceled civics in all of our classes. Imagine the government is a triangle. In a democracy, now in a republic and a democracy, you have a little tiny bit of people at the top, and those are elected officials. But in a democracy, the people at the top run everybody at the bottom of the pyramid. In a republic, you still have the people at the top, but it's inverted because the base of the pyramid, the big block at the bottom, runs those little people at the top.
In other words, we are ran by the majority rule. So when you've got 15,000 transgender people in society deciding our laws, that is a problem that should not be occurring because it's a majority rule. And they have been, listen, I want to make this point to the viewers. The way they're succeeding at taking over our country is the very first thing they do is they hijack the language. They start imputing little words or adding a word to a word to change the meaning of the word. And I can tell you way back there, I was alive when it started happening, that they started imputing the word democracy to get you to use that word because it just flowed so easy. But we are not a democracy, nor do you want a democracy. You do not want 100 people making the decisions for the country and those people sitting high on the hog. You're watching it with Kamala Harris. She's stinking rich. She's wearing $800 earrings. Okay. She was wearing, $100,000 outfits and then telling you that there is no economic crisis. Well, hell no, not in her world. There's not. So I want to point that out to you. Because us peons, us peasants at the bottom of the triangle there are the ones suffering. You want a constitutional republic. So there's another history for you.
That's right. In addition, before we leave, I want to give you a little bit on Kamala Harris. But I do want to say this. These rhinos, they are different from MAGA. Rhinos are cowards, and a lot of people in power, especially the Republican Party, they're rhinos, they're cowards. And it was those rhinos that were responsible for the shooting of Donald Trump.
For what?
For the shooting, for the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I'm going to say this. I'm just going to put it out there. When all these rhinos, when they sat on the sidelines and let the government have its way with the January 6ers, they emboldened the government to go even further.
That's right. I am so quick to tell people the people I blame for me being under attack and losing my family and losing my life and everything about it isn't the Democrats. It isn't the liberals. I blame Congress, my own Republican party, for doing this to me. They could have pulled the purse. Every time somebody perjured themselves in there, they could have called the sergeant of arms and said, take them into custody. They just wrote a stern letter. Shame on you. Well, if all I had to worry about was a stern letter, I guarantee you would have got a lot more from me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And these rhinos, they would always ask, hey, would you come speak at this event or that event? But nobody would ever help me financially. And they knew my situation. They knew it. You know, Dave Summerall from Stop Hate, he helped a lot during, those really rough times when, when it was winter and I was just getting back trying to figure out not just get my footings, but like where my belongings are. People don't realize that when your life is upset, when your phones are gone, you have no communications. When they put me out of the gulag, it was in January. There was just a major snowstorm that they had on the East Coast. They put me in a paper thin sweatsuit because they gave all of our clothing away. They put me out in a paper thin sweatsuit with some flip flops on in the snow with no phone, with no money because when they let me go, their financial office was closed. So I had no way to contact anybody, no money, no transportation, no anything in the snow.
And that is still happening, by the way, because the American Patriot Relief has been trying to come in when we can. We're starting to get a lot of January 6th defendants coming out of prison after their 3 or 4 year run, and they're doing the same thing with them. What's worse is, how you were told, Troy, that you couldn't go into DC before, well, you went in immediately, but they tell all of us we're not allowed into DC. Then they have turned around, and when they're releasing them, regardless of what prison they've been released out of, if they do not have a home, which you lose your home if you're in prison long enough, then they make you report to the DC probation office, and they tell you you're going to have to report to them for the next year. In a 97% liberal area, that they won't rent you an apartment, they won't hire you, and they expect you to stay on your feet. And by the way, with the clothes on your back and no money and no cell phone.
That's right. No anything. And actually what they're doing again is illegal because incarceration does not waive your domicile. You're still a citizen. You're not a citizen of the United States. You're a citizen of the state where you came from. And it's just when the federal government releases a person into Mexico, he doesn't have to report back to DC.
Right.
Once they release you back into your sovereign state, officially, they have no power to come bother you anyways. There's so many things that they are doing illegally, but our Republican people that we hire as Republican leaders, they're such wusses. Most of them don't know the law. Their only ambition is to make as much money in self-enrichment as they can while they're there.
You've nailed it.
And
Troy,
I tell you,
go ahead.
3 weeks ago, Jamie Raskin, he was given an interview, and he said on January 6, 2025, they're going to declare Donald Trump unqualified to run for office, and then they're going to put the nation under, what did he say, civil war-like conditions. And then a week later, Joe Biden comes out and he says, no, there's not, unless Kamala Harris wins, there's not going to be a peaceful transformation of power. And what people don't realize, what people don't realize is that the reason that they have the southern borders open is because they've been smuggling UN troops onto our soil under the cover of night just for this instant. They knew that, and I told you this long ago, this is going to end with blood in the street. I told you that when I first met you.
I remember it, and I did not like hearing that.
Yeah. If Donald Trump wins, when he wins, because he's killing them. He's killing them right now. This is why they try to kill him, in the whole 9 yards. But when he wins, he's already said he's going after them, with a heavy hand. You've also heard a lot of these people, they're saying, well, he's going to come after us. We're going to have to leave the country. You've also heard that too. Well, they have to they have to create civil chaos before they leave. Because if they leave the country, then Donald Trump can extradite them back to the country under criminal charges. But if there's civil chaos in the street, then they could run the countries and claim political asylum.
That's right.
And then they will be safe. This is their plan. This is what Jamie Raskin said. Oh, there's going to be, chaos in the streets because they're already planning this. There's UN troops. I think I sent you a link so that to see the video.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, there's already UN troops on our soil right now. They're just waiting to go to one of their designated areas in these blue states to pick up their little blue helmets and their weaponry and in their machinery to start trying to put Trump supporters in their reconcentration camps or re-education camps, or and that's just not gonna work.
You really point a scary picture, and sadly, it fits. I mean, it resides with truth, and it's scary, scary. Troy, what do we do about it? What can we do right now to stop it?
Well, for every action, there's a reaction. And the best thing to do is just be prepared. There's more Americans than there are UN troops. And you just have to be prepared to, do what the founders say do. Everybody always say, we got a Second Amendment, we have a Second Amendment. Well, they gave you a Second Amendment for a reason.
If you uphold it.
And the founders have told us many times. Adam said, the tree of liberty has to be watered by the blood of patriots every now and again. Freedom ain't free. It's not free. And now Americans have taken it for granted for so long. Now, if you want your freedom, you may not. You're going to have to really stand up for it, because it's not a battle of ideology. Well, it is a battle of ideology now. It's just not politics. We're past that.
Yes.
They want the America is not just, well, the United States is just a plot of land, but America's an attitude. And all 344 million of us, we have an attitude. We are the cowboy to the world. And they know if America falls, the rest of the world don't have a chance.
That's right.
And
you're right. And the rest of the world does know this. I've talked about it before on this show, that when I talk to people over in Europe, they know all about Texas. They know all about the United States. They talk about the Texas people being kind of the Alamo, the last stand to save America. And if America falls, they fall. And one of the things they point to is our attitude that we are a vigilant people, that we are very determined, that we're very faith-filled, and we're armed.
And we're armed. And we don't mind a good fight. If you put the music on, Texans are going to show up for the hee-haw. We're going to show up for the dance.
Some of my favorite things have been memes about the rednecks, because it's true. It's funny, but it's true. So, Troy, we're getting close to needing to close up. Do you have anything that you were wanting to share today that we did not get to discuss? Because you are such a wealth of knowledge.
I would. And, we brought this, there was a couple of other former military officers that brought this to the Republicans, including Ken Paxton, and they didn't want to act on it. But Kamala Harris is constitutionally ineligible. We're not going to say qualified. We're going to say ineligible to run for president under the plain and ordinary language of Article 2 of the Constitution. You see, when the Constitution was ratified, we were under colonialism. And in those days, women weren't allowed to do anything. You couldn't vote. You couldn't buy a car. You were under Once you were married, you were the responsibility of your husband. You
Right.
couldn't even vote. The Constitution is written in gender-specific terms, which the Supreme Court has upheld that and said that, you know what, if a constitution or a statute is meant for a specific gender, it does not violate the 14th Amendment to exclude gender that's not there. Now, the Constitution, for the office of the president specifically, it speaks in he, him, his. She is a her. Right.
But
And,
you know,
and
she'll just identify as a man. Come on.
well, you know, whatever, that doesn't change.
I mean, she's
plumbing.
identifying as
Yeah.
black when she's Indian, so come on.
Right. That doesn't change her plumbing. Her plumbing still says you're a woman. But so you know, we brought this because in every state, when they fill out their registration to run for federal office, they have to attest that they're qualified or they're eligible under the Constitution to hold that office. She lied because she's not eligible under that. And yeah, Hillary Clinton ran, but nobody challenged her on it. And all of these Republicans, including Ken Paxton, they were so worried about, no, we can't do that. We can't take her off because the women, we'll lose women. They'll be mad at us. But, you know, this is a slap in the face to the women that fought just to be able to have the right to vote. Remember, there was a time when women could not vote.
Well, and I will tell you, Troy, I'm going to throw it out there because for probably 30 years at least, I have been saying I don't believe a woman should ever be president. And it offends some women. I'm not going to lie. I've even heard a few men going, that is ridiculous. Well, you're not living in my head because I'm here to tell you we are led by emotions. When you look at the scriptures even direct it within leading the church. And to me, if you can't lead the church, you can't lead women. And I recognize we now have female leaders in the church, but the argument is, face it, Eve was the one deceived and ate the apple. Okay. Adam let it happen. He was complacent, but she was deceived. And I've never met a more vindictive line of people. And I know poor Donna, she's going to get a lot on this, but it's my opinion. It doesn't represent her. I hadn't met a more vindictive line of people than women. You get crossways on a woman. Listen, scripture talks about it in Proverbs. It's better to live on the corner of a roof than with a divisive woman, right? We just have our own way of doing things. And I've never agreed with a woman being president. And I am one. And I'm a great leader, but I don't think I should be in a presidential position. And I've met hundreds of women that say the same thing. So I don't know where others fall. You have a right to your opinion, but if anything else, even the ones that don't agree with my opinion, look at it this way. If it gets you an out from having this woman in presidency, that might be a good opportunity.
Well, you know what? I'm, just like people are unhappy that they just installed her without going through the process.
Right.
The founders, if you are going to live under a constitution, you can't chop it up into, oh, I like this, so I'm going to keep this part, but I don't like this, so I'm going to ignore this. It is what it is. And there's a process. It's called the amendment. You have to, just like it called for the 19th Amendment in order to give women the right to vote, they have to do an amendment in order to give the women the right to run for president. I mean, as a black guy, the 13th Amendment held us in slavery. So I understand the importance of the amendment. But just because it's going to upset several women, the Constitution is what it is. I know a lot of guys that came home in a box with flags over them for that document.
Right.
You hear a lot of women, and I'm not going in on women. I'm just making this analogy. They just implemented the automatic selective service registration. And you hear a lot of women say, oh, no, my daughter's not going to fight. You don't want your daughter to fight, but you want your daughter to command some men to go fight.
That's right. You're preaching it. You are preaching it. And listen, I'll take that too. I've never believed in women being in the military.
No, I mean,
and it's because of my biblical principles. God designed a man to be protector, provider. You put a woman in the battlefield, and I talk to veterans all the time, and I've ministered to them. I've held support groups for them, and they will tell you straight up, if they're being honest, that it distracts them having the woman in there because they feel like they have to protect her.
yes, and that's our natural instinct, and
Yes.
that means in close quarter combat, that means that I have two bad guys to contend with. The one that's on her, and then that one that's going to kill her and come for me because she's not physically capable of handling this
I
guy.
hate these things. I really do. And it come up again with Trump, with the CIA women that were a laughing stock. Truly made us all look bad, because I'm here to tell you, I can handle a gun, and I can handle it very, very well. And so where they dug that woman up out of, I have no clue. But I will tell you this. I'm 5'3". There ain't no way I need to be guarding and protecting a 6'3", 6'4" man. That was pure stupidity. There has to be an acknowledgement of the sexes. We are not as strong as a man. We weren't designed to be as strong as a man. You can pump all the steroids you want to pump. You're not going to be as strong as a man. This is just pure stupidity. And we, because of our build, we are not designed for certain jobs. I know, because I worked many years in a machine shop. I would use my entire body weight sitting on my butt, dragging 5-gallon buckets of metal across the shop while the men just stared at me. Okay, I've held my own in the battle, and I'm still going to tell you there's certain things we're not designed to do. So, and I hope that protects you, because, of course, when a man says it, well, you're just a chauvinist. You're just a woman hater. You're just a blah, blah, blah. Suck it up, people. Even white women believe that same thing. So you're on your own on that one.
Yeah, and that's what I said. And for Paxton's people to say, "Oh no, that'll piss too many people off." Okay, but this man got shot in the face on national TV, and you're worried about how it's going to make you look. That dog just don't hunt. These are some cowards, and I'll say it to his face. I'll say, "Ken Pag, you're a coward." I have no problem calling it out as it is. But I'm just gonna say, guys, if any of you out there, if you want to contribute to me, you can. Hey, cash at me.
Yeah, so tell people your cash app, because Troy has been a warrior in this. He does need our help. He has reached out to American Patriot Relief before, and we were barely able to help him at all. And we are about taking care of our January 6th defendants. American Patriot Relief isn't a machine just pulling in money. We disperse it as fast as we get it, but because we disperse it as fast as we get it, depending on the timing, it may or may not be there for somebody else. And Troy is in the battle. So tell us about your Cash App, Troy.
Cash App is the Cash App sign at TA Smocks. You'll find me there.
Capital TA?
Just TA. It doesn't.
Okay. I don't know if it recognizes the capitalization or not. So.
Oh yeah, because Wells Fargo and all of they're closed all of our accounts, and brokerage accounts, everything was closed, all the funds seized, and then you got to fight to, sent the check here and there, and you got to try to. It's maddening.
And listen, you've heard the guy's intelligence, and he's got a very gifted art at law and motion writing and whatnot. He can't, I guess you can't practice law, but what you sure can do is assist someone in their pro se.
Well, now, before we get off, let me tell you about this. See, there's a distinction in when you hear, and you're in a criminal case and you hear a lawyer come into a court and he say, "I represent this person," you kick him in the butt because he doesn't know what he's doing. In criminal law, you have a Constitution 6th Amendment right to the assistance of counsel.
Yes, I talked about this yesterday on the show. Go ahead and talk about it.
And because if if you're not allowed to be free on bail to prepare your own defense, then you need someone that you can trust that's going to be able to go out and take care of your affairs and help you prepare your defense. Now, in a civil matter, you don't actually have to show up in court, so you can appoint someone to represent you. You know, there's a distinction, and a criminal lawyer can't represent you; he assists you, and he has to do that efficiently. But in a civil case, a lawyer or an attorney can represent you, which takes us to the 13th Amendment, because under the 13th Amendment, there's never supposed to be any title of nobility or anyone that's connected to a foreign government in any positions of power.
We've through that pooch, haven't we?
Yeah, the British accredited registry, the bar, is part of a foreign government. So, no lawyer is supposed to be a part of that anyways. The practice of law was outlawed in this country until like the late 40s, when they felt like, okay, if we can open up schools, we can make a lot of money from this. And there's no creature called a bar license or law license. There's no creature, no such a creature. They have a certificate from the Bar Association, a private entity.
This is like a little USDA stamp, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no
Or
such
dentist
thing.
approved and recommended. There's no requirement to have it. You can still use that toothbrush if it don't have it.
Right. And the majority of these lawyers don't know what the hell they're doing. They can cure
Agreed.
cancer when they're trying to get your money, they cure cancer. But as soon as they get your money, they don't have a clue. And this is why there's so many ineffective assistance of counsel cases in criminal matters, because these lawyers, in order to draft a good motion, a good defensive motion, it takes you about 8 hours of research and crafting, and then going back and looking over again. There's just not enough hours in the day when these lawyers are chasing 15, 20 people.
So when there's an attorney that has approximately 45 federal criminal cases on his account right now, actively working, that's probably too much, isn't it?
That's a problem. That means that nobody's getting, good service for him, and everybody is going down. And in the
that's what
federal
January
system,
6th defendants are dealing with, by the way.
yes. And it's funny because I told a lot of the guys before I left, Kelly Meggs, I told them all, I said, listen, man, do not rely on your lawyers. You have those tablets in your hands, get your tails in your room and start studying the law. Do not rely on these people or you're going to jail. And my lawyer's good. My lawyer's good. Joseph McBride is my lawyer. He's an eggplant.
You just got to recognize, the position they're in, that they're trying to promote up. They're trying to get their name known. And the people above them are the ones that will pull them up the rung of the ladder. Who is that? Well, you're looking at the judges. You piss off your judge. And now every time you walk in their courtroom, you're going to lose your case. Okay, now your name is mud and you fall off the ladder altogether, which is everything you built up in your career field and going to school, moving your family, everything. And so you got to look at that at the core. It's kind of like when you see a commercial touting a product, you got to look at who's paying for the ad. Okay. I mean, every time you see a candidate getting touted on the TV, look at who's paying for the political ad. You've got to follow the money. And when it comes to these lawyers, they're trying to move up the career ladder. And in order to do that, they can't make the judge mad, which means that you can't prove him wrong, which means that you can't win your case if they're part of the cabal and don't want the case won, which is what's going on with the January 6th defendants.
Yes, and it's interesting that you say that. I know we have to wrap this up, but in the lawsuit that I have against the government, I actually had to file a judicial complaint against the judge there in Sherman, Texas. And yeah, in Sherman, Texas, it's predominantly red, and it's
predominantly what?
Red. It's
yes,
very, very, very conservative. but it also has a bad history in Sherman, Texas. There's a lot of racism up there. And
That's right. This
yeah,
is up in my area, and the entire corridor on North Texas for around 82 is very, very racist. No, in
yes.
general. I'm not calling everyone there a racist. Obviously, I'm not. So I'll probably get accused of it. I don't care, but
Well,
I'm a pretty straight shooter.
I actually had to file a judicial complaint against Judge Masson up there for racial bias. He's not. If you are a black defendant in a civil case, or you are a defendant suing the federal government, he's biased toward you. And one of the reasons that I filed is because the magistrate that he forced on us, she actually signed the illegal warrants to allow the FBI to come to my home. She's not allowed to sign warrants for any place that's within the jurisdiction of the state. And so she had a conflict of interest. She had a vested interest to try to move the case in a certain direction because of her own liability. And so, it was now he's got some act right. I filed a judicial complaint with the chief judge of the circuit over in New Orleans, and now things are looking different. He's like, "Uh-oh, I'm not afraid of him. You're gonna do right. You're gonna do right by me, or I'm gonna set you on fire." I don't mean that literally. I mean I'm gonna put a pin on your butt, and and now we're steady going because we filed for summary judgment against the government. They had already admitted that did X, Y, and Z, so there's no more controversy.
So
You're
Troy,
supposed
I
to get.
just had a passing question. I'm really naive to this stuff. All the stuff that you have filed, all these civil suits, okay? Is it a plug and play? Could every January 6th defendant come in doing this?
Well, if you're going to sue the like the DC police or whatever, then you have 3-year statute of limitations from the time that you are released or absolved of that liability to bring suit. Under the Federal Tort Claims Act, you have a strict 2-year window of liability or a statute of limitations to file your 95. It's a Form 95. And basically what this is a claim that said, okay, government, your agency did XYZ to me, and you owe me for this XYZ. And if you don't take care of this within 180 days, I'm going to file suit on you.
Okay, so hold up. That timestamp starts, say all of us that get 3 years probation after all the other hell they put us through. On the last day of your probation, that's when that timestamp starts?
No, ma'am. The time starts at the time of your when you realize that they have harmed you.
So at the point they beat down my door, the FBI agents come beating on my door with a tank on my handicap ramp. That's when I was supposed to do that?
Yes, ma'am. So
while you're still completely annihilated by the government, which is why it's been so hard for you.
Yeah, and I go at them every day, where a lot of the defendants are not going to be able to file a Federal Tort Claims Act. You can still file a suit against your sheriff for failing to protect.
Okay, that's good to know. I hope a lot of J6ers are watching this. I think it is really important that we start turning this around. And if we're really all in, we need to be really all in. So, I'm preaching to the choir on that one. So, Troy, I thank you so much. I am going to close this up. This has definitely been the most informative show we've had to date. I knew it would be. It always comes at a different angle with you because I tend to, you've got different personalities of people, and I lean a lot on the emotional aspect the relationship aspect. And you come in there with the legal side of things, knowing that Constitution, knowing your rights, and holding your ground. And you know, I look at the hands and feet of Christ, right? We're supposed to be all things. And if I'm the left hand, I'm sure glad you're the right hand. So
Yeah.
we're gonna.
And if any, before we get out of here, if anybody wants me to come speak, you know, just send an invite to Miss Jalise. She'll contact with me.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because he is a phenomenal speaker, as you see. He's very well educated. Okay, well, let's close it up in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, this time together. Thank you that it takes all the members of the body to make us whole. Thank you that we've got Troy running as our brain in this January 6th movement. Father, I thank you for him. I thank you for all that he is doing that really bleeds down to all the January 6th defendants. And Father, I pray that you lead him and guide him, that you pivot him if he's headed in the wrong direction. And so I pray this for all January 6th defendants. Father, I pray for our nation that they would humble themselves at your feet. I pray for all of those sitting in prison that feel isolated and alone, that they're afraid, that they're being mistreated and malnourished. Father, I pray that you would come alongside them, that they would feel you in the most miraculous of ways, that would put them in full submission of your authority while you take care of them. Father, I thank you for Donna, and I raise her up to you, that she would take her guidance and ruling from you, that she would be a voice for you and use her platform to grow and minister to your people. I thank you for her, that she has that insight and wisdom. And with all that said, Father, may you be glorified in all that we do. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. And it was great.
All right. Thank you so much, Troy. We'll have you back on, I'm sure.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.